Hi everybody, it's JJ and we're back again for another ASUS PCDIY hardware stream. It's definitely been a little bit. I've been on a little bit of hiatus, a lot of different things going on, but happy to be able to go ahead and kick off PCDIY hardware stream, I believe 119, so almost at 120. Hopefully everybody is having a good Friday, ending out their week on a positive and productive footing. Excited to be able to go ahead and touch on quite a number of really cool upcoming products that we're going to have coming out in the not too distant future. I know some of them are definitely been kind of anticipated, so we're definitely going to be touching on that. If you guys haven't checked out, of course, the show notes in terms of the YouTube description, make sure to go ahead and check that out because it does cover pretty much everything that we are going to be running through. If I go ahead and take a quick look at my list that I've got right here, let's just go ahead and give a quick recap of what we've got going on. So we're going to be touching on essentially the latest update to the ROG Swift OLED series of monitors with the PG39. That's right, that's the follow-up from the PG34, PG39WCDM. We've got a whole slew of brand new XG series monitors. So if you guys didn't see essentially prior updates that we've been pushing out in terms of not only a PCDIY group, but our social channels, we essentially introduced a new series refresh for our XG series of monitors under the ROG STRIX series. This is really about kind of hitting that sweet spot in terms of price to performance to specifications. So we have a wide number of new XG series offerings that you're going to see not only right now that we're going to talk about this stream, but I can tell you about some really exciting options that are going to be coming a little bit later on, but I'm not going to touch on those as of yet. So just make sure, as always, make sure to keep it tuned to our social channels for those updates. But we've got essentially how many? 1, 2, 3, 4 total of 4 XG series updates that we're going to be talking about. And I think for a lot of you, one of these monitors is probably going to be a sweet spot for you. We've got new 1080p options, we've got new 1440p options, and we've got new 4K options, as well as the introduction of a new updated version of a VA panel with a fast VA panel, where historically VA panels have been a bit slower in terms of the response time compared to IPS and definitely compared to TN-based panels. So that's going to be a cool update. We've got a TUF Gaming monitor update, a new ZenScreen portable monitor 15.6 with an integrated battery. It's going to be pretty cool. Our flagship Wi-Fi 7 BQ16 Pro mesh networking solution, the ROG ERGO monitor arm that I know that we announced back at CES that a lot of people have been excited about. We're going to touch on that. A couple of new GPU updates, and then of course also finally the confirmation of the release for the ROG STRIX AURA GOLD White Edition power supply, which I know has been a long time coming. A lot of people have been waiting for this model, so very excited to finally be able to go ahead and touch on that. So that is all going to be, of course, capped off by also BTF. We're finally getting ready to now push out and make available BTF. So if you guys actually have not checked out the ASUS store, it's available right now. Both of the BTF-based ecosystems. There'll be a press release coming out very shortly to be able to go ahead and give you all the specifics in terms of your core components that are going to be available under the TUF Gaming ecosystem and the ROG ecosystem. I've talked about this in the prior live streams, but we'll definitely be touching it out on this live stream. So all that and a few other items that we're going to be touching on today. So let's get ready and see who we have joining us today in the stream. Again, thank you guys for joining us today. We've got, let's see, H2O Computers is joining us today, man. Fantastic to have you, Michael. Thanks so much. We've got the one, the only Sumin, also great member of our PCDIY community, joining us. We've got Liquify Mods, a great modder and builder, man. Thanks for joining us on the stream. Fantastic to have you here. We've got PD actually asking about no UDCP. So that's actually going to be the ROG Swift OLED UDCP. That is our next upcoming flagship 4K variant. So we actually do have 2 monitors that we announced, one which we've released, the UCDM and then the UCDP. The UCDP is going to be the W OLED based solution. That's going to be 4K 240 hertz with the FHD toggle to 480 hertz. And then we had the QD OLED solution, which was the 4K 240 hertz based offering. So the UCDP is still coming. It's still just a little bit away, but you should see availability before the end of this quarter. But rest assured, when we're getting ready to pretty much release it, we will be highlighting it here in terms of the weekly new product release announcements, as well as in our PCDIY group. So you're in the right spot if you want to be able to find out about, but no immediate updates for you in this respect. But again, I can confirm for you it will be available in this quarter. So just make sure to go ahead and keep it tuned. Lastly, let's just see if we have a couple of other people. We've got the one, the only Erica joining us. Fantastic to have you here. Always. Thank you for letting us know that the audio checks out. And those that are asking, yes, microphone. I don't have the new Carnex in it. In as of yet, but I will be having it in shortly. Just have to make sure to follow with one of my internal team members, get it shipped out. So hopefully maybe for next week's stream, I will have the ROG Carnex in place, and that'll probably kick off before, of course, we get ready for our big Computex show, which I can tell you, I can't tell you what we're going to be announcing at Computex, but I can tell you right now, tentatively, in terms of our core components, we have some absolutely amazing updates that we're going to be showing off and announcing at Computex 2024. So if you guys haven't actually gone ahead and reserved essentially your interest in that by checking out our corresponding posts that have information for not only our coming ASUS announcement, what will actually be on the 20th, as well as the upcoming Computex announcement, which will be later on in June. You're definitely going to want to check those out. Again, you can find out more information about that by checking out our social channels. All right. We also have Mike Russo joining us, man. Fantastic to have you here. Michael joining us, man. Fantastic. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully I can get that one of those ROG chairs in the not too distant future. I do believe I earmarked one that we have an upcoming update in terms of ROG chairs, which I believe I touched on previously, not the Atheon, but we actually have a new variant of the ROG Chariot, which will be the ROG Chariot Core. This will be a more essentially price aggressive based offering that I think a lot of you that are looking for a monitor that's definitely going to be well underneath the $500 price point. I think right now our projected MSRP is actually right about $300 for the Chariot Core. That model will be coming out not too distant future, and that's actually one that I was hoping to maybe be able to do here, although I know a lot of people have been asking about the SL400 for me to get one of those. Love to be able to situate there, but we'll see what happens. But I can tell you also for the Chariot Core, we will offer that in multiple colors, including a white variant, which for those of you looking to kind of match maybe your kind of look and feel for your setup with something white, you're definitely going to want to check out the ROG Chariot Core. Chariot X Core. So as always, there's always a lot that goes on when it comes to our model names, but yes, we will have an exciting update in that in the not too distant future as well. So let's go ahead and give a hello to one other member. We've got Ernest joining us. Fantastic. Thank you for joining us here. And we've got Flying PJ, man. Fantastic, man. Hello, everyone. Thanks again for joining us here on the stream. So let's see what we're going to go ahead and kick things off with. As always, we normally like to go ahead and jump into UEFI BIOS updates. I don't have any big immediate UEFI BIOS updates to jump into for this week, guys. I will tell you that Lee, our community manager for our PCDIY group, has gone ahead and already completed posts for the most recent UEFI BIOS releases. For those of you on the Intel platform, please make sure to just go ahead and keep tuned to updated information coming out from our social channels and our PCDIY group. We have some forthcoming additional information and updates that we'll be putting out there in the not too distant future, probably around the end of the month. So for those of you that are wondering about respective updates in that respect, stay tuned for some additional information and additional guidance that you'll be able to go ahead and receive. So you're going to be covered on that side. Also, for those of you that are interested, we have gone ahead and issued a press release in accordance to essentially a release that has been issued by ASUS in relation to our service and support and enhancing aspects of our communications and assurances to try to ensure that we want to give you guys the best experience possible. Within that, there's been additional detailing that's offered that I think is important for you guys to review and look at. And definitely, if you have feedback, you're looking for more insight, feel free to go ahead and review that and follow up with our team. We're more than interested, of course, and more than willing to go ahead and review any of that information and also collect your feedback. You can actually find the corresponding link for that release that went out recently, linked in the YouTube description below. We've also gone ahead and posted that in our community page as well. So both those places allow you to go ahead and see that linked information if you want to go ahead and review that. In addition to that, I believe there was a quick question that somebody noted here is, would ASUS consider getting into speakers? And so this is actually something that we've kind of bounced back and forth internally. If we go back years ago, we actually did produce a large, very interesting kind of speaker. It was actually a digital-based speaker. It had actually a specialized kind of ported stereo design. It was pretty cool, pretty interesting for the time. But since then, we haven't done anything like that. We've run some recent polling within the community, and we definitely have seen that there's quite a number of people that would be interested in seeing a solution. Of course, there's tons of great options within the marketplace, whether you're talking about active, type of desktop speakers, monitors, of course, passive solutions. There's all kinds of different types of configurations, bookshelf, but I think right now for the majority of where our focus is intended is we're continuing to look at what you would expect with kind of a traditional gaming type of focus, which would be in-ear type solutions. So things like the ROG Cetra True Wireless, that's a unit that we recently released, and of course items like our ROG Delta based headsets, things along those lines. But to say that we don't have any plans to do anything on terms of a more traditional speaker, I don't think that's accurate. It's something that we're kind of going to continue to evaluate, and definitely if we see feedback in terms of people being interested in seeing that type of solution from us, definitely I would say never, but as of right now, there's definitely nothing to communicate on that side. Okay. Raphael also has a quick question. He goes, did the ROG HYPERION GR701 BTF come in white? No. So as of right now, for the ROG BTF ecosystem, and we'll touch a little bit more when we actually talk about BTF, but if you want to go with white, you're going to want to go with the TUF Gaming BTF ecosystem. So that will be the TUF Gaming GT302 chassis, the TUF Gaming Z790 BTF based motherboard, along with the TUF Gaming 4070 Ti super based graphics card. So all of those are going to be available right now in a bundle download configuration, and they're going to give you a really cool, bold and bright system. If you want to go with a more kind of traditional black and RGB aesthetic, and of course a higher set of components, then that's where ROG is going to come into place. And for there, you're going to have the ROG MAXIMUS Z790 Dark Hero BTF version, the HYPERION BTF version, as well as, of course, the ROG STRIX 4090 BTF. So those are your kind of your three core components that will be available that are going to be black. And then, like I said, on the TUF Gaming side. Now, we are definitely collecting feedback. So that if you have interest in different types of products that you'd like to see, whether it's going to be in color, whether it's going to be a chipset, I know we've had people asking, hey, are you guys going to make AMD-based version BTF solutions? As of right now, there's nothing to disclose, but we're definitely actively collecting your guys' feedback. So if you're interested in seeing something, the best place right now, join our PCDIY group. Let us know in a post there what you would like to see. Maybe we can definitely go ahead and throw up a poll in there as far as what might be maybe the next products people would like to see BTF-based iterations of, and that's definitely something that we can coordinate and feedback to our product management team for next generation designs. I can't tell you though, we are actively, of course, reviewing that right now and looking at next generation options, but nothing has been solidified. So as of right now, the two options that are available again are in the TUF Gaming ecosystem, which is white, and then from there, the ROG ecosystem, which is going to be in black. Okay. Let me go ahead and go one more quick question before we get into starting to jump on some additional items. Yeah, so PD is asking, could you help to give me some more value as far as why I might consider something like the UCDP? Yeah, I think I can speak to that a little bit, and I'll probably touch on that when I start talking about the ROG Swift PG39, because I think there's a good example there of a lot of the value points. If we compare that to, like, take for instance, like the Alienware, right, where some people go like, why would I necessarily want to pay more when I think it's just quote unquote the same panel, right? So it's the same exact thing, right? There's definitely going to be quite a number of differences in terms of the features and functionality and the experience that can be offered. So I definitely think that I can touch on some of those things. And if you have further questions, feel free to go ahead and post them in the chat after I dive into that monitor and maybe see if that helps you have a little bit better sense of what the value proposition is if you're going to be considering an ROG Swift series display. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and see if we got one other quick question or feedback. Actually, Mike Russo, he notes, hey, my A21 case works well. So that's pretty cool. That's actually a micro ATX chassis, which we recently released, which also supports BTF-based motherboards. I know some people have been asking, hey, are you guys going to release a micro ATX BTF? We actually do have one that we've already designed and developed, but currently we're not bringing it into the North American region. So as of right now, while that chassis does support BTF configurations, it's a great option for those who want to build a traditional build, lots of airflow, really flexible in terms of you being able to put in a wide range of cooling solutions, big GPUs, larger cooling solutions. It's got a really cool, nice compact design as well. Really, again, awesome for airflow. It comes in white and black, and price point is very reasonable. So I think it's technically MSRP is like something like $70. Very cool chassis, but man, best of luck with the build, Mike. Thanks for letting us know on that side. All right, let's get ready to go ahead and jump into some of these items here. So I think first and foremost, we're going to go ahead and touch on now let's go ahead and just give a quick recap to the ROG Swift OLED series of monitors. And we'll get into the first display right off the bat, which is going to be the PG39WCDM. So let me go ahead and bring this up here. And we'll go ahead and use this as an opportunity as well as, like I said, to kind of highlight what we're doing on the display side of the fence here. And also talk about some cool active promotions that we do have going on in relation to the ROG Swift OLED series of monitors. All right, so let me go ahead and bring this one up here. And we'll first highlight this guy. So do this. So this will be okay. And give me 1 second here to confirm on our pricing. Yes, $14.99 here. Okay. All right, so this is going to be the first monitor that we're going to be talking about, the ROG Swift OLED PG39WCDM. So this is a follow-up ready from the PG34. In a lot of ways, these monitors are pretty much going to be identical. So it pretty much just comes down to whether or not you're going to want a larger, kind of more immersive type of display, or you're looking for something a bit more compact. So when we talk about pretty much all of the core specifications and the features that this monitor offers, it's literally the same exact display in the 34-inch version. So everything from the panel, from the refresh rate to the resolution, the core specifications, they're all going to be identical. So it's pretty much just pick the one that you want. Do you want the 34-inch version or you want the 39-inch version? All right. So when we talk about the high-level specifications here, here you're going to have 3440 by 1440. So kind of almost in that 4K range, higher than, of course, 1440p, but not all the way, of course, your 3840 by 2160 base resolution, but a really nice resolution, I think, in terms of desktop experience where you're going to have a lot of room to be able to kind of move around all your desktop applications, nice and immersive, and I think a reasonable resolution to drive even for kind of mid-range performance-based GPUs. So you don't necessarily have to be at the highest end level of a GPU to be able to have a good gaming experience in this respect. Now, this will be a WOLED panel, not a QD OLED panel. Again, monitors that are on the QD side, we have a 49-inch QD OLED monitor, and then we have a 32-inch QD OLED monitor. This will be WOLED, okay? This will be a curved base display, and it is a pretty aggressive curvature. This is going to be an 800R curvature, so it's almost like a semicircle in terms of kind of enveloping you. So it will definitely come in on the periphery there. So if you're really looking for something really immersive, it can be quite exciting in that respect to really kind of provide that to you. But if you're somebody that prefers a much more kind of flat type of field of view, we do definitely have other offerings, including 34 inches, but they're not going to be in an OLED solution. But we definitely have a wide range of LCD options that if you want something in this resolution, but in a flat, of course, design, then we do have you covered on that side. So just keep that in mind, whether you're going to be on curved and flat. And why don't you guys let me know in the chat right now, do you prefer a curved monitor or do you prefer a flat monitor? Which one's your preference? Okay, so 240 hertz is going to be the refresh rate. So an ultra high refresh rate. This monitor will support G-Sync compatibility, variable refresh rate. So that does mean that it can pretty much, you don't have to worry about the GPU being able to actively render your game at a sustained 240 hertz. It's okay if it's only able to do 120, 144, 160. It'll be able to variably bounce through that. And critically, the pixel response time is so good on an OLED display, it's sub 1 millisecond, that really is what lends to give you really, really great motion clarity along with the refresh rate experience. So even if you can't fully run at 240 hertz, the fact that already you're getting that really low pixel response time already gives you really great motion clarity experience. This monitor does also feature, right now, I believe ASUS is still the only manufacturer on the OLED side that is offering ELMB, which essentially is our term for BFI, so black frame insertion technology. This will further enhance motion clarity. It is important to note that if you do enable BFI, BFI will essentially reduce the peak luminance performance. I still say it's usable, but it will be a darker experience. Now, the benefit is essentially is that BFI will also essentially mirror kind of the same refresh rate performance of 240 hertz, but at the locked refresh rate of 120. Now, the benefit that you have this, especially if you have a console or maybe a game setup or a configuration setup that can't really get to that higher refresh rate value, and that's a peak that you can get to, that could be of a benefit. And the other kind of situation that can kind of come into play is sometimes people have noted things like VRR flicker. If you can maintain your actual refresh rate and also in some situations reduce brightness, you can sometimes attempt to reduce this. The variance as far as how people will pick up on this is quite notable. Some people will pick up on this and some people won't pick up on this. But I think the great thing is we offer the flexibility through such a wide range of options to allow you to tailor the kind of the monitor to work best for you based on your preferences. And the user that was asking about the UCDM, right? A lot of already what we've touched on with things like the, the ELMB functionality is going to be like one of those distinguishing points, but we're going to get into some other items that are also distinguishing elements. This is going to be a big one right here where you're going to see the USB C connectivity. So if we take, for instance, like on the Alienware doesn't offer actually USB PD support to a high wattage. So if you want to be able to integrate this in with something, let's say like a gaming handheld or maybe like a laptop or a high performance tablet that's going to be able to have high wattage charging support, you're not going to have that flexibility. Our unit, you can see right there, it's going to give you 90 watts, right? So in that type of situation, if you find that's going to be a benefit, that's really cool. You're also going to find, compared to many other competitors, they might have a slower USB connection. If you're going to want to use the integrated USB hub, ours is going to be a 10 gigabit based implementation. We also have KVM functionality where many of the other monitors won't have KVM functionality. That can be really nice, again, on a larger format monitor like a 32, a 34, 39, because imagine being able to use something like the picture-in-picture or picture-by-picture functionality where you can run a secondary desktop or secondary application in that window, right, and be able to have kind of just greater degree of flexibility when it comes to multitasking, different input systems, different types of configurations. So that's, I think, another plus point that we're going to offer. So this is where you start to kind of see more and more of the differences between the two. Another thing that I'll also note that I like to, it's kind of subtle, but I appreciate, is the way that we integrate actually our power adapter. If you take, for instance, look at the Alienware, they fully integrate the AC adapter inside of the display. So the advantage, I would say, of our design is that the actual AC adapter is external. So if I don't know if I have one over here, an AC adapter. Thought I had one. So you're going to have something pretty much more like on this side where you're going to have a larger AC adapter. Now, on face value, it might not seem like a big deal, but the benefit is that statistically, when you look at things like failure analysis over time, a surge, spike, or sag could be one of the more common points of failure that affect a display. And when they affect the display, they tend to usually affect this first and foremost. So you could imagine that if you actually had the AC adapter, which, like I said, in the hierarchy of items that could fail from like a surge, spike, or sag, this would be much more likely to fail if it was fully integrated inside of the entirety of the display. The only way that you can resolve that is by literally sending in the entire monitor, right? And our type of design, if you had that failure, you could actually reach out to our service and support team and get the warrant on this as opposed to actually having to send in your entire display. So it seems subtle, but having even that kind of difference in design is of a benefit. Another difference is that this monitor, ASUS has really kind of been a leader in terms of our thermal dissipation design in our displays, where in our prior like AQDM monitor, we set the benchmark for SDR and HDR brightness performance. Part of that came through our optimization in terms of the thermal design and the heatsink assembly. So on all of our OLED solutions, we're only using a passive heatsink design. That means there's no active fans that are spinning, that can wear down, that can fail, and that can also create noise. Again, a competitor like Alienware has had an active fan. I believe they did have to release a firmware update to attempt to address and kind of reduce the noise profile. It may be maybe now acceptable to some users, as opposed to before it might have been kind of more noticeable. But the inherent benefit is ultimately you're still looking at an active design versus a fully passive based thermal design, which is what we implement. So when you start to kind of add all these little things in, I don't think it's just going to be one value prop that we offer, but it's going to be multiple value props that we offer. Okay. So in addition to that, right, you are going to have very, very, very good, of course, DCI-P color coverage, 99%. That's quite impressive. All ROG Swift displays are factory calibrated, and all of our OLED displays actually now feature a new specialized new HDR calibration process that we essentially did from the ground up specific to OLED-based displays. We have seen through industry reviews that we have been very, very good in this respect, and of course, that is going to continue to be a benefit. You do also have 6-color access control and unclamped options. Some competitors don't have what are called unclamped options, meaning that if you go to the sRGB mode and you still want to make some maybe adjustments, sometimes they'll entirely limit you from making any of those adjustments. But if you still want to be able to make adjustments, you can, because we offer an unclamped mode. So there is more flexibility there. And we also maintain our display widget center software. Means if you want to make adjustments inside of Windows, you don't have to physically use the menu knob, which is quite nice. It's an under-mounted menu knob joystick that you can go ahead and click and be able to make all your adjustments, but you can actually do it all in Windows, which makes it just easier. So beyond that, a really nice sturdy metal frame and base. Some competitors are still using a plastic base. So again, that's more of a premium sensibility that we offer in terms of the fit and finish. But I definitely think that it offers a nice kind of more premium experience that you're going to have there. And last but not least, kind of one other subtle thing is, we'll see if I can bring it up here in the image, is going to be the actual threaded mount that we have on the monitor. Let me see if I can bring up that threaded mount. Here's the display widget center software. Right up here at the top, we'll kind of go back right here in this image, but here at the top of this unit, there's a threaded mount. So that's pretty cool, because at the top of the monitor, that allows you to go ahead and mount accessories like a camera, a microphone, or a light. So that is something that you can use. You don't have to use, but it's a cool kind of integrated level of functionality. It's kind of just built there into the display. So you're going to be good to go. And of course, here we also maintain the new warranty status that we've implemented for the OLED-based monitors with burn-in protection as well. So overall, going to be a great choice. This will be coming in the not too distant future. The MSRP pricing, as you can see, is $14.99. And I'm going to go ahead and quickly touch on essentially just a recap of the current OLED solutions that we have available beyond this model, because I know there's just been a lot of people that have been asking about the OLED solutions. And I'm going to pop back into the chat in a moment to see if there's any other questions that somebody might have on this monitor or some of the other OLED-based offerings. But let me go quickly bring up here just some of the other OLED options that we have. As of right now, it's pretty wide, almost, I think, a monitor for just about every type of user, if you're interested. I'll also touch on a cool kind of review program that we have going on for OLED displays. Okay, so let's quickly kind of break these down here. So the first one is going to be If you're kind of looking for the tried and true kind of sweet spot in terms of 27-inch and 1440p, we still continue to offer the PG27AQDM. Great choice right there. That is still going to be one of the absolute brightest monitors that you can get in terms of SDR and HDR. 1440p, 240 hertz, a great option. It doesn't have some of the same features that we have on the latest generation monitor, so depending on what you might be looking for, make sure to compare the spec. But in terms of an OLED-based solution, this is what we have in the 27-inch and the 1440p resolution. Okay. Another item that I didn't note that is important to keep in mind is that all of these ROG displays also come with our kind of partnership that we've done with Adobe for an actual 3-month Adobe Creative Cloud subscription. That's a pretty expensive subscription that you get for free. Even if you're currently an Adobe subscriber. So even if you're currently an Adobe subscriber, you can still redeem this to be able to go ahead and add that on in addition to what you already have. So that's pretty cool because that can save you actually quite a bit of money. So if you think you might be saving like $100 or $150 by going with another company and you don't even count our features or functions that we might have, if you count that, and then you also get that you're getting that, it's actually a pretty big value add. We then have the PG32WCDM. So this is going to be people that want to step up to a 32-inch display, although it does have aspect ratio controls. So you can actually kind of simulate a smaller, like 27-inch 1440p based monitor and high refresh rate as well. So it's kind of like a dream monitor in that respect. You can do a lot of really cool things because we have aspect ratio control. The 27-inch model also has aspect ratio control, and the 34-inch and the 39-inch also have aspect ratio control options. So this is going to be 4K, 240 hertz QD OLED, and a semi-gloss based display versus the WOLED solutions, which are going to be an AR or matte type display. So if you have a lot more kind of ambient lighting, maybe something like a window right next to you, heavier lighting overhead, you may want to consider maybe the AR matte. If you got much more controlled lighting and you want maybe a little bit more contrast, a little bit more pop, also a little bit more color volume, then the QD OLED solutions would be favorable. I'll also say the QD OLED solutions probably have a slight edge in terms of overall text rendering performance, although generally, of course, just moving to 4K, it's going to be a bit sharper because you have greater PPI than you would have at a lower resolution. All right, continue on in terms of the other displays is the PG34 WCDM. So this is just the smaller variant. It's exactly the same monitor that we just talked about with the PG39, just the 34-inch first phase version. So pick the one that you want there. So 34 or 39. We then have the ROG Swift OLED PG48UQ. If you want something really big, large format, you don't want to buy a TV because TVs don't necessarily work in the same way that monitors do, especially if you talk about sleep and hibernation, having DisplayPort connectivity, USB hub, a lot of other kind of functionality that will give you a better experience if you want to use it as an actual monitor. Then we do have this. We also have the ROG Swift OLED in a 42-inch version. So we have the PG42 and we have the PG48. So both of those, again, 42 or 48. And compared again to a TV, TVs, which we use generally a glossy type display, we have a specialized, it's kind of what we call our micro textured based AR based coating that we have on here. So again, still kind of higher than standard reflection handling that you're going to have available to you. And then we have the PG49 WCD. This is going to be a super ultra wide. So it's kind of like sticking 227 inches side by side. Okay. This is also going to be QD OLED semi-gloss based display. Very similar type of feature set on many of the other current monitors that we've talked about. And then last but not least, we're then going to have, of course, the PG32UCDP, which has not come out yet, but will be coming out. And like I said, the big difference on that one is kind of broken down for you right here. They're both going to be 32 inches. They're both going to be 4K, but the QD OLED is going to be a 4K 240 versus the UCDP will be a 4K 240 and a 480 1080p based monitor. One's QD OLED, one's going to be WOLED, one's semi-gloss, one is AR, right? In terms of some of the performance metrics, we'll get closer into that when we actually get ready to release it, and we'll actually be able to give you some hard numbers, as I've talked about this in the past, like when we launched the UCDM. Actually, I gave you your SDR and your HDR target values so you can understand that, but I can't do that yet because we haven't launched it yet, but we will provide you that information if that's something you're interested in. Okay, so that gives you a quick recap on the OLED. The last item I do want to note is that we do have a promotion going on that if you do actually pick up any one of these applicable monitors. So you can see the PG27, the 42, the 48, the 49, the 34, the 32, and I believe we probably should be updating this for the 39 when the 39 comes out. Technically, do not hold us to that yet because it's not included in the promotion details information. But you can see up until June 30th, if you buy an eligible monitor, you will get Ghost Runner 2 for free. So you'll get a game for free on top of that Creative Cloud subscription. So 2 sets of things that we'll get for free when you get that. One other cool promotion and kind of activation that we have going on is if you leave a review for your ROG monitor, you can win our brand new upcoming ROG light bar and our ROG monitor arm. So I'm going to talk about the monitor arm in a moment because we're getting ready to release that. But that in itself is already $200. The light bar, we haven't finalized the MSRP, but probably is going to be around like the $150-ish price point. So you combine those two things together, you're talking, of course, about a pretty nice set of pricing for you to leave a review. And you can see that we're going to be picking 10 winners. That's right, 10 winners will be able to actually benefit from that. And you can see that we pretty much started that in March, and we're picking one winner every month. So March, April, May, June, July, August, all the way until the end of the year. So pretty much if you decide to pick one up, just leave a review. Drop us your feedback and your experience, regardless of whether you find that there's something that you really like or maybe something that can be improved upon. Always great to have that feedback so that we can provide that to our product management team. All right. So let's go ahead and see what questions we might have had that came on and popped up right here. All right. Are we going to see more ultra wides in terms of monitors with the 21x60? I think it's dependent. I mean, ultra wides are, I'd say, an interesting segment of the market, right? The people that kind of tend to ask for them tend to be really kind of ultra wide enthusiasts. But as a whole, right, when we take a look at the majority of where the volume is in the market, it is not going to be in the super ultra wide segmentation of the market. One, just because there tends to be more challenges in terms of interoperability in terms of games. Desktop usage, it's a bit easier, right? Because, you know, Windows will support these resolutions and you can make just adjustment to applications to fit within that resolution frame. But when you talk about having the games correctly support, let's say the HUDs or the correct field of views, or just in general in-engine game support, it can be a little bit more complicated in that respect. That being noted, you know, if we see enough feedback, I would definitely say it's always on the table, right? So if there's a monitor resolution and kind of configuration that you're interested in, let us know. And that's something that we can always discuss with our team. And you might be surprised if we end up coming to offer that. But I can tell you right now, at least immediately, and even based on some things that I've seen in our pipeline, we don't have anything immediately kind of coming down the pipe that would be for a new super ultra wide offering. Okay. The tech one goes, are these Gen 3? Yes. The latest generation for QD OLED would be the latest versions of QD OLED. So that would be for like the UCDM. That would be correct. For the 49-inch, that was before the launch of that later generation. To be honest, there's not really too much of a delineation or difference. So even resident to the normal benefits you would get from improved text rendering and the color volume performance, even the brightness, they're going to be pretty similar. You're not really going to see a large variations in that respect. So I don't think that should really be kind of a big factor that comes into play for you. But if that is something you're looking for in relation specifically to the UCDM, yes, it is using the latest generation QD OLED. Okay. What is it? Dontown 1979. My biggest concern on the 39 is burn-in. I use my displays for 12 to 18 hours a day, and I've already gone through 3 OLED monitors from companies. So I've been sitting on my PG35VQ. So that's a tough one. I mean, the reality is that OLED inherently is going to be a technology and a panel type that is going to have a higher level of susceptibility. Now, on a lot of our displays, we have a lot of specialized safeguards and mitigations built in, even compared to some companies which say that they have them. Sometimes you have to manually engage them. With ours, they're pretty much already auto-implemented. So we really are attempting to kind of maximize that. Another kind of lesser known factor that people might not realize is that thermals do play into this, which is part of the reason why early on we started implementing more aggressive type of thermal design implementations. Because if you can keep the OLED substrate material, I believe under 60 degrees, that can help to also maintain and maximize the lifespan of the panel, right? So there's a combination of different things that have to come into play, not only I think on the end user's part in terms of how you utilize it, but along with, of course, safeguard technologies that can be built into the display, thermal mitigation technologies, all of these things come in to kind of give you a pretty high level of confidence. There is, of course, also the burn-in warranty that is present, but with a very, very high usage, I mean, if you're saying 12 to 18 hours, I would say that's even beyond kind of like a standard use case, right? Where probably maybe most users might be closer to like a 4 to 6 hour period. I would say, in that scenario, probably is still sensible to be considering LCD. In that regard, though, we still have amazing LCDs, right? I mean, we have, my still personal overall favorite display, even though I really love OLED, is I love our ROG Swift 1440p 360 hertz fast IPS based display, because that has amazing color gamut. It's just pretty much on the same level as the OLED, has an ultra low pixel response, outstanding motion clarity, and has that bulletproof reliability that you would expect from an LCD. So there's really great options there. We also have similarly high refresh rate, great options, mini LED technology for great contrast. Now, are there still benefits? Definitely for OLED, yes. But for somebody in your scenario, it might be best to also maybe consider that if you want to go OLED, you might want to use it pretty much as a content-based monitor and not necessarily as a productivity monitor. But just some things to keep in mind in that regard, okay? So let me just quickly see if there was another question that might have came up there. Yeah, so JC, Justin Chu, a great modder and builder in the community, that's $80 a month, the Adobe Full Cloud sub currently. Yeah, if you actually add up the current cost of Adobe Creative Cloud, right, the 3-month subscription, and I believe like there's a bigger bracket, it's pretty expensive. We're talking a couple hundred, a few $100 for actually the bundle, right? So the way that our bundle works is that it is little as a 1 month or can be up to 3 months. But I believe for all of our ROG displays right now, they're all going to be giving you a 3-month Adobe Creative Cloud bundle. So that's quite a bit of savings. Like again, and it doesn't matter if you're a pre-existing Adobe user or if somebody you've never used it, maybe just want to try it out. Again, that's a pretty nice value proposition that you get included in there. Philip notes, yes, 800R curve, it's an LG panel. That is correct. Again, but we do, ASUS is very unique in the industry in that we have both QD OLED solutions and WOLED solutions. Many other vendors will essentially only offer one or the other. So we are in a unique position to be able to offer both. Okay. All right. Let me just go ahead and see if there was any other question that might have came up. I don't think that there was another question. Somebody was asking a little bit about quality of panels. So this is an interesting question, and it's a little bit lesser known, but there is actually something that is referred to in the industry as panel binning. So even at times when a manufacturer is sourcing a panel, unless the manufacturer openly discloses you information, you don't necessarily know the grading that could be indicative of this panel. And the difference can be is that you could technically have a panel that can be the same operating specification. So it could be like the same resolution. It could offer the same relative kind of color gamut performance. Generally also similarly on the pixel response time, although there could be a little bit of difference. But when you talk about variability, whether it might be things like uniformity, the occurrence or the likelihood of things like pixel failure, right? Bright dot and dark dots, there can actually be differences between what are called grade A based panels and grade B panels. Take, for instance, ASUS has exclusively used grade A panels in all of our LCDs. This, from a manufacturing perspective, does mean that we will carry a higher cost in terms of production, but it also means that we'll see better course panel consistency and performance because we're essentially only picking the best of those panels that are available when we're working with the panel manufacturer. Now, there are many other things that go along into a monitor's design and development. Sometimes people want to attribute that the total experience is just based on the panel. That's not accurate. There's a lot of things, whether it's going to be within the firmware tuning, if you're talking an LCD, the scalar implementation, the I/O, there's many things that can contribute to the overall total experience. And I think for our experience, what we try to do is really look at it from a holistic perspective, try to look at all the areas that we can provide you a great experience, especially when we're talking about our premium series of displays and trying to make sure that we can really offer you a comprehensive positive experience across the board on that side. Okay. So hopefully that gives a little bit more insight into the monitors. Again, if I missed a question there, feel free to go ahead and drop that in the chat. I'll do my best to go ahead and follow up from there, but we've got a lot of products to jump into. So we're going to go ahead and keep the ball rolling, but we'll go from there. Lex Luthor goes, JJ, can you give us a tiny hint about next year panels? Will you guys be making any more HDR 1400 displays, maybe micro LED or brighter OLEDs? That one's a little bit tricky. I definitely can't talk about stuff that we currently even have under design and development that I know we're going to be coming out with. But what I can tell you is a couple of things. One, ASUS is going to continue to have a focus in terms of offering a wide range of solutions, not only in terms of LCD, but also in OLED. We're not unilaterally saying we're only going to now, because we have a lot of new OLED offerings, we're only going to focus on that. We're going to continue to offer that. When we talk about even brighter OLEDs, I think we've shown that we've just been probably at the top of the industry, right, at really looking to try to offer the best experience and the best performance possible when it comes to SDR and HDR brightness. Now, there's a lot of things that go along with that in terms of balancing lifespan, performance, color accuracy, a lot of things like that, because sometimes, say, for instance, you could have a brighter performing OLED, but maybe it's going to be at a gamma setting, right, that would also maybe have some loss in terms of color accuracy, right? So you're always going to have to pick and choose where you want to make prioritization, but we know that people have this in interest, right? Which is, again, why if you looked at like the PG27AQDM when we launched, even though there was literally 6 other manufacturers that were all quote unquote using the same panel, we set the benchmark to offer a significantly better experience for SDR and HDR, right? And when we talk about LED, again, even with a recent update that we had with our ProArt series display, which introduced the latest generation of a mini LED with a new number of what are called IC controllers, we set, again, a new benchmark for not only peak brightness performance, but also the gradation performance, reduction in haloing, and an overall better experience when it comes to these ultra bright LCD displays. Because the reality is when we talk about efficiency and we also talk about brightness, OLED, while it definitely continues to make improvements and impressive, it's just nowhere near close the performance you can offer with an LCD-based technologies. So we will continue to look at those technologies, including also the next generation, which is micro LED, which we have done a little bit of kind of showcase with our, of course, our cinema-based display, our 135-inch ProArt micro LED. But I think we're still a bit away from seeing that in the kind of more consumer space. But as always, make sure to keep it tuned week to week, and we will provide you any updates once we're ready to start teasing that information out on what you may be seeing coming from us in relation to our displays. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and keep the ball rolling here, guys, and we're going to go into our next product that covers the ROG Swift PG39WCDM. Let me go ahead and drop the link there in the chat for anybody if anybody does want to check out that display. So I will go ahead and drop that one in there. And in terms of overall, again, availability, this one you should be seeing in the not too distant future. Probably I would say expectation is probably going to be in about the next 3 to 5 weeks, maybe potentially by the end of the month. If not, you can definitely look to see this guy in June. Okay. Lex says, my dream monitor would be the PG32UQX with minimal haloing. That would just be perfect. Yeah, definitely. That's an area, again, with the latest generation ProArt monitor where we, I believe, almost doubled the number of IC controllers. The IC controllers go hand in hand. A lot of people focus just on zone count. But take, for instance, like we set new precedents there. That monitor had over, I think, 2,300 zones, which was really impressive for a monitor. And then we also increased the number of IC controllers, and that really improved aspects like haloing. So again, I would say actually the iteration and the performance improvements that you're seeing with an LCD are greater in some ways than the performance improvements that you're having resident to, let's say, OLED. In some ways, because of its inherent design, right, it is a little bit more limited in some ways. It offers an outstanding level of performance, but take, for instance, like the pixel response is inherently the same from OLED this year as it was the last year, and it was the year before. That hasn't really changed. Refresh rate is continuing to improve, and that will continue to improve. Brightness has improved, but not necessarily in the same ways that you can see that with an LCD. And so if we talk about the scaling of the technology and the performance implementations that can further be improved upon in some ways, I think we'll continue to see further and further improvements as you're talking about things with micro LED and mini. But again, from ASUS's perspective, we're going to continue to look at all of these technologies and try to make sure that we're offering a wide range of options to give consumers whatever they're looking for. And at that time, a great set of options, irrespective of their budget and, like I said, their wants and needs. So hopefully they'll find the right display that makes them happy and that they can, settle on in terms of the feature, function, and spec. So let's go ahead and go into our next monitor. Here we're going to go and we're going to go back to that classic tried and true 1080p. I want to know is there anybody right now in the chat still using a 1080p based monitor. In a lot of ways, 1080p is still the overall kind of definitive sweet spot. It's definitely not a bad resolution, especially when you're talking about for gaming, because, you have ultra stable frame rates that you can hit at 1080p. And of course, you can hit ultra fast refresh rates. Now, definitely while OLED is setting the new benchmark and think in terms of motion clarity, especially now that we have this 240 hertz based panels. And of course, in the not too distant future, we'll eventually be offering our ROG SWIFT OLED 1440p 480 hertz, which will be really exciting. LCDs were still generally setting the benchmark in terms of having the absolute best motion clarity. This monitor is pretty exciting because it hits a new kind of respective price point of giving you a really impressive set of features, functions, and spec at a very reasonable price point, which is really the hallmark of what we're trying to do with the XG series displays. So here you're going to see the ROG STRIX XG259CMS. So let's take a look at this guy. This is going to be a 24.5 inch display, 1080p, 310 hertz based monitor. I know that's a little bit interesting. That's the OC setting, but pretty much you can think about it like this. If you were rocking like a 144 or 165 and you were looking to maybe make that upgrade to 240 to 280 or 360, although the 360s were very expensive, this is kind of really letting you get into that next generation of having an ultra performant LCD, have that improved motion clarity performance, right? Also a brighter than standard based display, which many of the older LCDs on the market generally are going to be around 200, 250 nits. This is going to notably brighter than that. So you're going to get a brighter display. Plus, historically, a lot of the ultra high refresh rate 1080p monitors had weaker color performance. And they also had a lower color gamut coverage. So in this respect, all of that has gone up. But here you have a fast IPS display. It does support eLMB sync, which essentially just means BFI, but the BFI can also be run simultaneously with adaptive sync with, like, take for instance, like a G-Sync. You have USB-C connectivity. This is not USB PD. It will max out at 7.5 watts. But a cool feature you're going to see on this monitor is that it has this little slot there so that if you want to dock in your phone, you can pop in your phone, run that USB-C cable to it, power up your device, and be good to go. So a nice, quick, and easy way to be able to charge the unit. It's got a nice, clean, compact design for the bezel and the overall frame. Not super aggressive, just nice, minimal base setup right there. Would be really nice for kind of like a dual monitor setup if you want to maybe have one, of course, maybe in the portrait and then maybe another one in kind of the landscape setup. This is also going to have display widget center for that OSD in terms of Windows-based controls, and it will also have that threaded mount connection at the top of the monitor. So again, if we look at the rear is going to give you that threaded mount so that if you want to be able to add accessories like a camera, a microphone, a light, you can do that. This monitor also does come with variable overdrive. If you're not familiar with this, this is very important for LCDs. Historically, some monitors will see their best performance at kind of like one specific setting, but here the variable overdrive, which has now been further enhanced, essentially means it will tune things to be able to mitigate aspects like ghosting and other kind of abnormalities that can occur in terms of how you're driving the panel across the refresh rate range, be able to maintain good motion clarity performance, whether you're going to be at like a 165, whether you're going to be at 240, or whether you're going to be at 310. So that is a pretty cool feature to be able to, again, see, and very reasonable price point. Again, $299 for this display. I think it's great. And do a note that all of our LCDs that we're talking about all do come with a 3-year warranty, which also includes rapid replacement policy. So that is going to be a comprehensive level of coverage. And the other part that I wanted to note here is you still get factory calibration, and that's very nice for the color coverage. It's 110% sRGB. So overall, you're still going to get a monitor that's bold, bright, color accurate, look good for Windows and for your gaming experience. And really going to be a great choice, again, if you're going to be in that esports scene. So that is going to be the XG259CMS. But if you guys are interested in 1440p or 4K, don't worry, we got you covered because we got more XG monitors that we're going to be touching on right here in a moment. So let me get ready to drop that one in the chat there as well. So I'm going to drop this one in there. And let's see some feedback that we had right here. So let's see first. Mike goes 1080p forever, right? Yeah, I mean, 1080p can definitely be a great resolution, like I said, for its consistency in terms of the frame rate experience. So I think even again now, for a lot of games, it can still be a great experience. I think where it tends to be, of course, a little bit of a weaker experience is, of course, in general desktop use, right? PPI isn't going to be as great, so you don't get that really nice kind of sharp text clarity, but it's still totally usable. But yeah, for me, for sure, I would be looking towards probably a 1440p, if not a 4K, because I love for my monitor to be kind of a monitor that can do a lot of things well. I want to be able to use it for definitely desktop productivity, maybe some light editing, right? Be able to do some media consumption, and then I also want to be able to do my gaming on it. So I want to be able to do a little bit of everything. But if you're just wanting to be able to have a nice monitor for a great fluid gaming experience, you're doing a lot of Apex, a lot of Valorant, Overwatch, Destiny, Fortnite, then this could be a great choice for you. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our next display. Next display here is going to be the XG259QNS. Okay, so here we're going to be going to an even faster display. So we're going to be moving up from 310, and we're going to be going up to, I believe this one is 380. Is that correct? Yes, correct. So this would be the ROG STRIX XG259QNS. And for this one, pretty much very similar kind of experience of what we've talked about. It's the same overall ID design. You get that same kind of inset design there where you can put your phone on this unit. Okay, this is going to be a fast IPS display as well. 380 hertz. Again, that low peak, because in reality, if you measure, of course, the pixel response, it will be higher than that. But the peak, that 1 millisecond gray-to-gray response time, and also has that display widget center that you're going to get there. Also has the eLNB sync technology that will be present on this unit. This unit does not, though, have formal G-Sync validation in the same way that the prior display does, so do keep that in mind. Technically, you can force it, but it is not certified within that. Okay. So that's the reason why it's noted there. It's just adaptive sync. Again, the display widget integration right there. And this unit, if you're just kind of wondering in terms of the connectivity, DisplayPort, HDMI with 2 ports, and a USB hub with 2 Type-A ports there, and then a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. And this one also has the threaded mount. So again, it's that top mounted connection. So you can put light, camera, microphone, and 4-way ergonomic adjustments. So tilt, swivel, pivot, and height adjustment are all present on this unit as well. So that's going to be the XG259QNS. Pretty much the big update kind of compared to the prior one that we looked at is going to be that this one moves up to that 380 hertz versus the other one, which was the 310 hertz. Okay, so let's go to our next display here. And I think for a lot of people, this one is going to be the one that's going to be of definite interest. So we'll go into this one, which this one is going to be the XG27UCS. So if you guys remember, I think back around our prior live stream, I talked about the XG27ACS. That monitor, absolutely love. Fantastic choice. Coming in at $300. That one I think is a sweet spot, 180 hertz. Outstanding DCI-P3. I think that one's 95% plus. It might be 98%. 180 hertz, fast IPS, and 1440p resolution. This is pretty much the same exact monitor. It is just the 4K version. So 27 inches at 4K is actually my preferred option. I know a lot of people like 4K at 32 inches. Also do have a 4K 32. It's great. It's a little bit more immersive. But when you talk about PPI, that 4K at 27 inches looks fantastic. Ultra sharp, really, really nice, and great for text. So if you do a lot of stuff in text, you do a lot of email, you do a lot of Reddit, you do a lot of community commentary, you really appreciate kind of the sharpness and clarity, then you're definitely going to be a fan of this display. But if we take a look at the spec right here, again, 27-inch, 4K, so 3840 by 2160, 160 hertz, 1 millisecond, great, of course, peak for performance as always. Fast IPS, it is going to support the BFI technology, so that's going to be extreme motion blur. The backlight strobing technology, yes. USB-C, same. It's going to be the 7.5 watts, along with that little dock right there for your phone. G-Sync compatibility, display widget center to control the OSD and Windows, the threaded mount on the rear. So all those consistent things. You can see right there, 95% DCI-P3 along with factory calibration. You also have a 6-color access control that's going to be in there. And we also have specialized grayscale tracking that we've done, which really helps also give really nice gradation performance in there. So again, a lot of optimization to really give you great image quality, even though these are definitely much more at the entry price band, right? So some of these things like the more advanced grayscale tracking, the higher color gamut coverage you used to only see maybe in a much higher end monitor, as well as also maybe in our like ProArt series versus something like a more entry gaming series display. So very exciting to be able to kind of get that much more premium level of kind of performance this is a really well-rounded monitor, especially if you kind of put two of these side by side. Great experience right here. And definitely it's got enough chops that if you want to use it for content creation, you could definitely be using this as a hybrid monitor. So not just necessarily purely gaming, but if you wanted to be able to have a mix that you wanted to be able to do some editing because of the factory calibration, the good DCI-P3 coverage, that wide gamut, right? The higher than standard brightness, be a solid choice as well for somebody that's looking for something maybe in photography, videography, 3D animation, things along those lines. So this is going to give you some flexibility right there as well. Let me just see right here. Hi, GlitchCat. Happy to have you here. Let me just see. Not sure, Michael, what your question is there, if you're kind of asking a question. So let me just go ahead and if you have like a follow-up question, just feel free and let me know. But again, this I think is going to be a great option for a lot of you out there that if you wanted to step up finally to a 4K based LCD, this I think is going to be a great option for you when you just round out kind of the total spec, feature, function, pricing is nice. And a lot of these newer ones will also be, you'll see these updated version of our Game Plus technology, which will include the dynamic shadow boost. So the really cool thing along with the dynamic shadow boost is that traditionally in the past, what we would used to attempt to do is kind of boost up the shadows, but the disadvantage is that it tended to be a bit more aggressive, and it did help to improve shadow visibility, but it would also kind of punch up brightness across the board, and that would sometimes blow out other brighter portions of whatever might be on the scene or the map or the image that's on this display. So here there's actually a lot more kind of targeted actually optimization that's happening specific to be able to increase that luminance for just that darker area. So that's the reason why we call it a dynamic shadow boost. It's much more intelligent in terms of how it works. So if you're in a situation where you've got a map where you've got a lot more kind of like maybe potentially a dark spot and then, you know, a brighter spot, you'll help to really reduce that likelihood of giving that overexposure. So this is going to be the XG27UCS, another update that we've got right here. So let me go ahead and drop that one in the chat for you guys. And so I think we had a couple of people that dropped us that they were still using 1080p, but why don't you guys let me know, what's the resolution that you're using right now for your monitor? I believe starting in about the end of 2022 going into 2023 was about the kind of the breaking point that we started seeing that 1440p was becoming the largest segment of the market, as opposed to 1080p, which, you know, was easily that segment for more than a decade. So now 1440p is now really coming in its own, and it's going to pretty much be there for a foreseeable future for some time. But let me know right now, what are you running? Are you running 1080p? Are you running 1440p? Are you running 4K? Or are you running some, you know, a non-traditional resolution, like, you know, an ultra wide or a super ultra wide, or, you know, something even greater, right? Are you in the 5K, the 8K category? What's the resolution that you're running in terms of your display? So we're going to go to our next monitor, and that is going to be the XG27WCS. So this is going to be an interesting one, guys. I'm going to go ahead and drop this one in the chat as well. So for this display is going to be a curved option, a 1440p, and I think it's a really great option to kind of compare against the ASUS. So I'm going to kind of bring these side by side and let you see the two of them. And this one's going to be $299. They're actually going to be both the same price. So the thing is it really comes down is like, what is your preference? Okay, so let me actually bring the two of these up here. Bring up the XG27 ACS. And then we can kind of see the two right here. Okay, so let's take a look right here. So the monitor that we're going to be talking about right now is this one, is going to be the XG27WCS. It's right now just became available, and we also have the ACS available. So both of these are available to you right now. So how do they break down? Okay, well, this one's 27 inches. This one's 27 inches. This is going to be a curved display. It's not a super aggressive curvature, so that is going to be nice. So it's just a little bit subtle, gives you just a little bit more of that immersive experience, right? Gives you a little bit maybe improvement on that periphery. We can see right here that it's only a 1500 R curvature, so it's very subtle. For some people, they might not even kind of fully see that it's kind of like a curve, but it is a little bit there. So 1500 R curvature, this is going to be flat. 1440p, 1440p, 180 hertz, 180 hertz, 1 millisecond, 1 millisecond. Now, in the past, traditionally, fast IPS was going to have a faster overall pixel response time across the entirety of the panel. and also in best case scenarios compared to VA panels. VA panels were generally going to be slower. This is going to be a newer, fast VA-based panel type, so it sees improved pixel response, where historically you were not seeing even the peak performance be a 1 millisecond response time panel. As a whole, the fast IPS might still be a little bit faster, but they're going to be very, very close now and give you a nice, really solid foundation for your actual your refresh rate, as well as for your pixel response performance. So in that regard, again, we're seeing a much closer kind of parity. Now, it is important to note that this being IPS and this being VA, VA is going to offer a superior level of contrast. Overall, it can be about almost 2 to 3 times better contrast. So if somebody that appreciates, I think in some game scenarios, sometimes maybe select desktop scenarios, you want to have that little bit kind of inkier black, that darker black. You want a little bit more of that punchy kind of contrast that can occur. A VA panel is going to be favorable in there. IPS is still going to be very good. And when we talk about the color gamut performance and the fact that they're both factory calibrated, color experience on both of these is going to be very good. It just will come down that inherently the contrast is going to be superior here. IPS will still have a bit better viewing angle experience, but if you kind of think about it, unless you're going to probably run 2 of these displays, are you really going to be outside of the sweet spot of the display? So for the VA, will that be a limiting factor? Only you will know based on kind of how you would set up or orient the display, right? But you can see overall, most of the key features you can see are going to be pretty much parity, right? So this is going to have USB-C. This is going to have USB-C 7.5 watts, 7.5 watts. This is going to have the threaded mount connection. This one will have the threaded mount connection. Here you can put your phone. You can also put your phone. They both support display widget center is also going to be the same as well. Rounding out, if we go a little bit deeper into the tech spec as well, you're going to see it's going to be pretty close here. DCI-P3 performance is going to be almost identical. The ACS will have a slight edge. It's going to be a little bit higher. You can see right here, 97% versus 95%, but both of those are outstanding. They both have 6 color access control options as well. And in terms of their brightness performance, they're also going to pretty much be just about the same as well. And keep in mind, again, the refresh rate is going to be the same on these displays. They both, again, have that eLNB sync and eLNB sync. They both have that display widget center as well. And when we go over again here to the I/O, right, USB-C, USB-C, DP, DP, HDMI, HDMI, and then you also have the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. And then we can see, of course, the ergonomics. Ergonomics are the same along with the threaded mount, right? So just a little bit, ergonomics are not the same. A subtle difference right here. You have tilt, swivel, and height, right? And here you can see tilt, swivel, pivot, and height. So 4-way versus 3-way. So kind of just comes down, which one do you favor? And I think it probably comes back to, do you want that curve and do you want the contrast, right? But both options are going to be available and both are the same price. So I'm going to drop those both in the chat. And I'd like to know, what do you think about which one would you maybe pick? Like, both I think are going to be great options. Okay. All right. So Michael notes that he's running a 27-inch 1440p base, so that makes sense. Very common. PD also notes that he's running 27-inch and 1440p resolution. And then MMHRB says that he's running 3840 by 2160, so he's running a 4K base monitor. But then actually on the gaming side, he's got a secondary display as well. So in gaming, interesting, he says 1550 by 1600. 240. That's a weird resolution. I'm not exactly sure what's going to be coming out with right there. So Michael asked an interesting question. He says, will ASUS be coming out with any type of wireless displays? I would say right now we don't have any immediate plans for anything that. Historically, the main issue that you've been running into is, of course, going to be latency. There are, of course, some high-performance millimeter wave type of tech options that can offer you very, very impressive low latency, although generally the sensitivity, the range hasn't been great, and the cost of those can get pretty expensive. So I think the question would be, more importantly, how much would you guys pay for seeing that type of feature in there? If, like, we released a ROG Swift at this end of this year that had essentially came included, integrated with, ultra high performance, low latency wireless connection option, and all you had to do was just plug the adapter and you plug that into the port on your monitor. Would you use that instead of having to use a cable? Would you like that? do you see the value in that? And again, how much would that be something you would want to pay? Because I can tell you anecdotally, if you probably buy those accessories out in the market, you can easily be looking at a couple to a few $100s for those essentially hardware-based solutions to be able to provide low latency transmission for wireless displays. And there's also a question on whether or not they would be able to correctly support certain types of protocols, such as things like, adaptive sync, variable refresh rate, things along those lines, right? So that's also something to be mindful of there. So question is, JJ, when will there be ASUS new customers JVs as effect? So hey, Polly, what I would recommend is I talked about that in the very beginning of the stream. We are actually already actively putting in the adjustments that we already noted in terms of that actual press release. So if you want to see a little bit more information in relation to that, feel free to go ahead and review that documentation, and you can definitely then reach out to our service and support team. But I can tell you that actually our team's already had internal meetings and is already actively working on these processes. So actually, even prior to the statement, some of these were actually already in transitional kind of, let's say, deployment. So they're already essentially running changes that are being implemented. So if you definitely have more questions beyond the scope of what's been detailed within that actual press release, which we issued recently, and I've linked on the description, then feel free to, like I said, go ahead and reach out to our service support team, and they're more than willing to go ahead and give you any additional information that you need. Okay. Luis goes, off topic, is a 4 terabyte Gen 5 drive slower than a 2 terabyte Gen 5 drive? It kind of depends. It doesn't really work from the perspective of saying that. I mean, right now, the vast majority of the Gen 5 drives are not generally ultra large density. They're going to be a bit smaller in terms of their density. Thermals are a really, really, really big part of Gen 5 performance. So I would tell you, almost irrespective of the size, although size is a factor based on the NAND that they might be utilizing and the controller design, right? Thermals are probably going to be your bigger factor. So depending on how well that drive is going to be cooled, is going to probably ultimately determine the sustained performance of that drive. But if we talk about from a gaming scenario, the reality is that while right now you could run something like a direct storage benchmark, and Gen 5 drives will give you the best performance. And hey, if you want to benchmark against some other people in the group, check out our direct storage benchmark, which we ran in the community. There's a link there, and you can share actually running it on your system and seeing how you stack up against somebody else. Is your system faster or slower than another? That is a way that you can kind of test the performance of drives. As a whole, between a Gen 4 to Gen 5 drive, the overall gaming experience is generally about the same, whether you're talking about loading a game, actively applying patches, or things along those lines. So unless you have a specific scenario where you know you're genuinely benefiting from a Gen 5 drive, I think for the vast majority of gamers, my recommendation is actually just get a solid Gen 4 PCI NVMe based drive. You don't necessarily need to jump up to Gen 5. Creators could definitely benefit more because they're working with more active kind of sequential transfers where they can benefit from the increased bandwidth. But I think we're probably still going to be waiting a little bit more for probably further direct storage optimizations to be able to better leverage, I think, the bandwidth that is being afforded on Gen 5 based drives. Okay. All right. Just go ahead and see right there. Michael says, would need to be the CPU that wireless option similar to BT and the Wi-Fi cards is out there. Not sure I really get your comment there, Michael. So if you want to go ahead and clarify exactly kind of what you were asking there, I'll try to see if I can go ahead and be responsible. Provide a response to that question. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and go into our next display here, where we now have gone into the WCS. We're going to touch on a TUF Gaming display. I think this is our first TUF Gaming display that we're talking about, right? And this one is going to definitely be on the more entry side of the price point, but a great option for somebody that doesn't have a huge budget for a higher end monitor, right? Even though a lot of the XG series monitors that we've talked about have been quite inexpensive, this one is going to be at the $200 price point. So we're bringing it even lower. So here, this is going to be the TUF Gaming VG27VQ3B. All right. And what we're going to see right here, this is going to be a 27-inch curved display, 180 hertz. And you can see right here, 90% DCI-P3. So overall, that's actually pretty nice. So again, for somebody that doesn't have a huge budget, wants maybe a little bit something larger than that standard kind of like 24, 25-inch base display, good color coverage right there, and a nice refresh rate and reasonable pixel response. Keep in mind, this is not going to be a 1 millisecond pixel response panel, so definitely those XG panels that we showed you are going to be better in terms of that regard, but this is it's not a bad option. You're also probably going to have a little bit of a lower penalty here, and excuse me, a bit of a penalty compared to the overall brightness performance. So yes, we can see here many of those other displays we were talking about in that 400 nit range. Here, this is in a 250 nits range, so it's pretty much industry standard. So again, it's a lower price point, but if again you're just looking for a more entry-level monitor, general kind of gaming scenario, this can definitely be a solid choice. One thing to kind of note, where some people wonder about the differences between, for instance, between like a TUF Gaming and an ROG STRIX. ROG STRIX monitors and ROG Swift monitors are all factory calibrated. So that means that they go through a process at the factory to be color accurate. So on a TUF Gaming display, while technically maybe the color gamut performance means that it can actually do very good color rendering, it can mean that you might need to actually tune the monitor yourself to get kind of the better color performance out of the display. Now, many users don't generally have a colorimeter or color calibration. Sometimes they just kind of eyeball it. And some people don't even make adjustments, and they kind of just like, I'm just going to switch to the preset and I'm kind of happy with this. So they'll go from like FPS to racing or something like that. Or they just might manually adjust the colors until they kind of feel that they're in a happy state. But if you're somebody that prefers that kind of better, just out-of-box experience, again, that's going to be a benefit of being able to go to an XG series or one of those Swift series displays, which do feature factory calibration. Okay. So that is going to be the TUF Gaming VG27VQ3B. All right, I will drop that one in the chat there as well. Let me go ahead and see if there was a question on that side. Louise says, thank you. Yeah, not a problem, man. No problem to be able to hopefully answer your question right there. So Michael says that the wireless HDMI TP could be part of inside the CPU, similar extension. Not really. It would actually be too kind of challenging. So even right now, when you talk about like on a motherboard that has that feature, there's actually a discrete controller that has to be added on. So even if you had like, let's say the graphics card and it came included with that built onto it, you would still be paying an additional cost, right? So it would be kind of similar to where some people sometimes feel that they don't want to pay an additional premium, even though we give you better quality VRM, better thermal design, better acoustics, right? More advanced feature set that you're going to have like on a higher end card, like an ROG STRIX versus the TUF Gaming versus maybe a dual series card, right? Like which one is going to be the card for you, right? So it ultimately comes down on what your preference of feature or function is going to be. But as of right now, no, I wouldn't expect that this could be something that would be integrated, especially directly on the silicon side. That would take quite a bit of space on the silicon to be able to design along with IP technology. And so I just don't see that as being something that would be implemented in the foreseeable future. I think if it was to be implemented, it would be easiest for somebody like us, like an add-in board partner, whether it's again on the motherboard or maybe on the graphics card, to be able to then find the corresponding chipset and then be able to put it onto the product. But it would still ultimately come down, is that something that you guys see value in, something you would appreciate, being able to have essentially that wireless display technology integrated within that product, right? All right. So let's go ahead and go to our next monitor. So that's going to be the TUF Gaming. And I think we got one more display. Yeah, we're almost there. Almost wrapped up on the displays, guys. So this is going to be a touchscreen monitor. And this is going to be a portable display. And this one's pretty cool because it kind of brings down the price point for having a truly portable monitor down to a bit of a lower price. So historically, the monitors that have had integrated batteries have been a bit more expensive. So here you're getting a pretty good price point for this one. So this is going to be the ZenScreen Touch. It's the MB16AMTR. So if we take a look at the core specifications right here, it's 15.6 inches, full HD, so that's 1920 by 1080, has 10-point touch, and has a built-in battery. So it's a 7800 milliamp battery that's built into this unit. So that means you do not need to actually connect the cable to be able to power this unit. So that means if you just connect purely for display, it will be able to power itself. So if you want to have that truly kind of next-gen portable experience, then this is the option for you. Now, this unit does feature both USB-C connectivity with DP support. That means that it can readily support the latest phones, tablets, and of course laptops that can all output a DisplayPort alt signal across the USB-C, right? But you also can use the mini HDMI. So with the mini HDMI, it'll work with anything. a phone, a tablet, a console, a camera, anything that you want to be able to output this to, it will just work because it's just utilizing that physical HDMI connection. So that is a great level of flexibility and functionality to be able to go with whatever device you want and be able to have that true mobility of having that integrated battery in there. So very, very cool in that respect. This does have an integrated kickstand, and it also does have our threaded mount. So the cool thing about the threaded mount is, let me show you guys here our portable monitor stand. This is an accessory that we do offer. It is called the MT SO2D. But essentially with this guy, you can attach this to a wide range of our portable monitors, and you could have this now work as a stationary kind of fixed display. So if you want to be able to have this set up maybe like on your desk office, right, then you can have that portable display, but then when you're on the go, you can quickly detach it and then throw that in your backpack or your bag, your tote, whatever it might be, to have your secondary monitor. So it's a nice level of flexibility. You can see it also has tilt and pivot and height adjustment built into it. Really nice. But then when you just want to be on the go, you can just pretty much remove that and then still have that integrated kickstand so that you can go ahead and put it right next to your display. Now, ASUS is the #1 portable manufacturer for displays in North America. We have a huge array of monitors, literally everything down from 13 inches to our largest monitor, which is 24 inches in terms of portable or movable based displays. So tons of options, everything from ultra high refresh rate to touch, to units with battery, to OLED, right? Pretty much almost every single option is covered on there. So this is just one other one. If this isn't the right option for you, check a look at our website. You'll probably find an option that will work well for you. So that is going to be the MB16AMTR. Okay. Great choice then. Again, if you want the flexibility of having something that has the integrated battery. If you don't need the integrated battery, we have the MB166CR, which recently came out, which is only $140. A great option for somebody that just wants to be able to add in a low-cost secondary monitor they can throw in their bag. No mini in HDMI on that one, only USB-C, but a very, very aggressive price point on that model. But again, we have tons of different options available for you. All right. So let me go ahead and drop that one in the chat right there. Let me see if a question came up right there. MMHBR, yeah, not a problem, man. Thanks for joining the stream. Appreciate it, man. You have a great Friday. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe and stay healthy. Okay. Hi, Cham. Thanks for also joining us to stream. It'd be nice to have you here for the first time. I don't remember you joining us previously. Michael goes, put it on the GPU as you said. Would be interesting. Okay, yeah, I mean, for sure. It's definitely something that we can kick around with. Maybe we'll throw some additional community polling and see what people's thoughts or feedback might be in terms of incorporating that type of design, maybe for next generation type of graphics cards. You never know. All right, so let's go ahead and go to our next item right here. So we're going to quickly touch on the monitor arm. So we got 2 monitor arms to touch on right here. So I do think I actually have some video for this one. Let me go ahead and bring it over here. I have it. Okay. All right, so this is going to be the ROG ERGO monitor arm, and this is going to be kind of rounding out our displays. We're going to touch on the 2 arms, kind of brackets or accessories that we're going to have right here. Actually, let me put the price on this one. It's going to be $199. All right, so this is going to be the ROG ERGO monitor arm, the AAS01. All right, so this is something that we showed off at CES. This is really going to kind of be ideally suited to be able to pair, of course, with our RG-based displays. Although, of course, it can work with our TUF Gaming, it can work with our ProArt, it can work with any company's monitors, as it is using just VISA standards. So there's not something inherently proprietary about it, but it does have a very nice build quality to it, some cool design accents as well in terms of the kind of the fit and finish, and like I said, the overall design aesthetic. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the important numbers that you're going to want to keep in mind right here. So this will be rated to support up to a 39-inch, which currently that goes up to some of our larger OLED-based displays. So again, we have our PG34, PG39. This would be perfect. Again, if you have the PG27, the PG32, you'd also be able to work within that constraint. You can see right here that it notes also the weight limit. So if we're going up to on a flat display, that's going to be 25 pounds approximately. And if we're going on a curved display, it's going to be approximately 18.74 base pounds. Okay. You can see 100 by 100 in terms of the VESA mounting support. Now, when you talk about the overall design right here, let's go ahead and go a little bit more. It uses a very nice C-clamp mounting design. I really like this T-handle. So the T-handle allows you to go ahead and apply nice and even consistent torque to be able to go ahead and put that on your desk, clamp it in. Very easy and nice to use. When you talk about the range of movement, you can see that you've got lots of flexibility. You have rotation, 360 degrees. You have, of course, this panning as well that's available to you, which is a form of rotation, 360 degrees. And then you can also see this item right down here, 360 degrees. You have the total height, which you can see is approximately about 20 inches in terms of overall height from essentially the base where it is going to be connecting. And then you can see the kind of the range of motion in terms of how much you could pull in, depending on the depth of your desk. You can see that will go up to about 25 inches. So you have the ability that you can, of course, pull that in or pull that out and make all those corresponding adjustments. That's really the big benefit that you have, of course, with the monitor arm. This spring, which internally is in there, looks really cool because it's all red and it has a semi-transparent accent. This is all that metal. So it's usually comprised of metal, so it's got a really nice feel to it. In terms of the overall construction and the overall durability testing, you can see that we've gone through a 10,000 cycle range of motion test in terms of the overall validation. There's integrated cable management that's built in right here. This little undermount plastic housing allows you to easily run all the cables, run them down right there. So they're all nice, clean, compact, and routed in. So very, very cool in that respect. So overall, this is going to be a great addition that we're going to have in terms of our lineup. If you want to be able to find out more, check the overall corresponding website, but it will be launching in the not too distant future and coming in now at the confirmed price of $199. Again, might be able to have it up before the end of the month. If not, it would probably be early next month. Okay. So let me go ahead and drop that one in the chat. Hey, Bryce. Thanks. I'm not sure which AIO you're talking about. Oh, you're talking about this one? Yeah, this is the Strix LC2. We actually just released the new LC3, which is going to be coming out. LC3 uses a newer a version of the pump head and cold plate. So even better performance optimized for the latest generation of Intel and AMD CPUs. All this is run great. No problems with 13 or 14th gen series. The cool thing, though, is on the newer version, it has a detachable pump head. We also have one that has a screen. This one was only a static image where we had the screen on the Ryu or the Ryu Gen 3, but it is a great looking AIO. So. Oh yeah. So Eric goes, I like the style of the AC-L01. So that's the desk mount kit. I know a lot of people really like that. I loved that one. Right now, we don't have any immediate plans. We are first working on trying to finalize the ROG monitor ERGO arm, but we are looking for an updated version of that one to update for the newer monitors that don't support the current desk mount kit, which we had for a number of our ROG-based monitors. So we are looking at that, man. Sorry, I don't have an update for you on that side, but it is something that we are looking at, and hopefully we can offer in the future. Okay. So let me go ahead and go into our next bracket right here. Not bracket, but it's a desk mount kit. Speaking of the desk mount kit, this is going to be for our ProArt series monitors. So we're stepping away a little bit from gaming on this side. And we're going to go with this guy. So let me put this one out. This is going to be at 39 right here. So this is going to be the ProArt desk mount kit. And this is going to be very similar to the ROG desk mount kit. It's compatible with most of our ProArt based monitors between 24 inches up to our 34 inches. It's just a nice, really clean and simple way to be able to gain more desk space. So you can see right here pretty much how it's been set up. You would just essentially remove the standard base. You would add this C-clamp design to it, and then you would be good to go, and you can pretty much recover all that space and still be able to have your height adjustment, really nice, clean, compact, minimal setup for you. So if you've got a ProArt series monitor and you want to be able to take advantage of this, you now have it available to you. It's going to be a great option. And you can see the entire compatibility list that we have as far as all the displays that do support it. It has an entire little guide, but you can see right here, we have our 24-inch models, 27-inch models, 32-inch models, and 34-inch models that all support the desk mount kit. All right. So pretty cool. Check it out, guys, if you guys are interested. Okay. I will drop that one in the chat there as well. And that is not to be confused with the ROG desk mount kit. Okay, guys, just keep that in mind. The ROG desk mount kit is going to be different than this one. Michael goes, how about a combination discount? Right now, I don't think we do, but that might be something that might happen on the ASUS store. So, as always, I recommend if you're not signed up for text notifications on promo alerts, then definitely do that, because you might see maybe some bundled pricing along that side. Okay. Hey, Squaliv. My recommendation would be is if you have questions, you've got a lot kind of noted in there. I would recommend that you probably drop a post in our PCDIY group. You can also reach out to our service support team. But keep in mind that my first recommendation is that when you first set up your system, you don't necessarily need to tailor settings unless you're actually experiencing an issue, right? As I also noted too, we'll have a future update coming up. So you might not necessarily want to kind of get stuck on currently using these values versus another set of values that might be changed or when the finalized update comes out later this month. So just be mindful of that. Keep in mind too that if you're also running other factors like overclocking configurations, which you are, well, I don't know for a fact that you're running 5600 technically is memory that is running the nominal value, the JDEC value. But in most situations, most people that have 5600 memory kits are running XMP memory kits, which are still a form of overclocking as you've modified the timings and the voltage. And that can even potentially modify, of course, your SoC voltage as well. I think the bigger thing is ultimately, what are you attempting to gain, right? When you make any adjustments relating to kind of different types of power settings, the main reason why you're attempting to do this is because some people have concerns about, let's say, thermal envelopes. But in most situations, there's two ways to look at how you would assess a thermal envelope, right? And ultimately how much that's going to get up to and whether that's going to be a point of concern. Now, if you want to use a synthetic benchmark as the way that you determine your kind of worst case scenario, it is a valid way to assess that. But the reality is you will never see that. So you could play Cyberpunk, you could play Company of Heroes, you could play Homeworld 3. How many people are excited about Homeworld 3, right? You can play Spider-Man, you can play Forza, right? You can play any of those games and you will never see the same thermal load that you would have under Cinebench or OCCT or Prime 95 or Limpac or some form of a synthetic stress test. And in that regard, you're essentially attempting to kind of fix something that isn't realistically going to happen in the system at any time. The nominal power draw is very, very different, right? So when you talk about trying to change values or limits, it really comes down to load that you're going to be placing within the system. And this also is in alignment with performance as well, right? So an example is that, again, if you're going to use a worst case kind of synthetic benchmark, that's going to have potentially very high power draw and also higher level of heat, right? But also the frequencies that will be rendered there will be also different than what you would have in, let's say, kind of a more lightly loaded bursted scenario. So I think you want to first kind of look at those things. And I think even before kind of getting all to that, first get through your system, run through maybe a generalized stability test, check your memory, make sure your memory's stable, and see how your system is running, right? And I think based on that experience, you can kind of move forward and you can look for what you think you want to make adjustments on, right? So if you want to have more kind of specific insight in terms of additional parameters, feel free, again, like I said, you can dive more deeply, make a post in our PCDIY group. You can also reach out to our service and support team to maybe give you some additional guidance right there, right? So Kendra notes, is the monitor arm release? Yeah, so I just finished talking about the actual ROG ERGO monitor arm. We're just right now getting it out in terms of distribution channel, in terms of availability. So I just confirmed on the pricing. $199 is going to be the official price for it. And you should expect to see availability hopefully by the very end of this month. As far as our coordinated e-tailers, sometimes some e-tailers take a little bit longer to get them skewed in. But you should see availability hopefully by the end of this month, if not early next month, in terms of the ROG ERGO monitor arm. Okay. So Kendra also goes, does ASUS have any plans for a backup battery, a surge protector? Yeah. So we actually did kind of do a little bit of a soft teaser on it. I don't have all the details for you, but let me see if I can bring this up here. So we will actually be releasing this guy later on. So this is actually going to be kind of a specialized full kind of, let's say, power solution. So I can't give you all the details of yet. More information will actually probably be coming out at Computex, so you can make sure to keep it tuned for that. We're also looking at a couple of other interesting products that I can't detail a lot that might be relating to things like surge protection. This is an area that we actually have done a lot of polling, and we see a lot of people wanting to see us apply not only aesthetic, but a high quality kind of design to maybe some of the more kind of, let's say, standard options that just exist in the marketplace. But unequivocally, I do recommend that if you've got a nice system, you should at a minimum consider having some form of decent type of surge protector. You know, you don't have to go super expensive in terms of getting like a surge protector. The main thing that some people forget about is that a lot of standard surge protector strips, right, use some form of like a basic, like a MOV, like a filter. And the thing is that these have generally some form of like a definite lifespan, right? And so after a certain number of cycles, these units essentially will kind of become like a big outlet, right? It's no longer actively protecting you. So if you had it like, let's say 6-7 years ago, the outlet functionality can kind of still work, but that surge functionality might not be working anymore. UPSs can be a bit more robust because they might have other types of designs. They could also have line conditioning. There could be other things that kind of are going on in there. But if definitely you have a basic surge protect, do kind of maybe look at maybe some of the documentation, see about the rated kind of recommended lifespan. And I would probably tell most people if it's probably older than 5 years, you probably want to replace it, right? And then of course, if you want to go to something bigger, like, you know, UPS or a line conditioner or other items, there's definitely other items that are out there in the marketplace. But these are definitely things that can help in terms of giving you a more kind of complete and safeguarded experience for your hardware, right? So HU Computer says, I think it would be neat to see a moddable and upgraded ROG Spotlight. I agree with you. I know a lot of people would love to see an updated version of the ROG Spotlight, right? Flying PJ goes, will the PG39WCDM be available at Best Buy? I believe right now, no, it will not be available at Best Buy. If you want, go ahead and tag us in the PCDIY group and we'll check to see with our account manager if it might be offered as an online offering. But for sure, it's not going to be available in store. Potentially, maybe later at a later date, it might be available as an online offering. But I don't believe even right now it's being skewed in as an online offering. Okay. Yeah, I've been looking for something since I live in a storm-heavy area. I would definitely agree. Yeah, if you're in an environment where you get a lot of potential things that are coming through that can affect your, you know, your electrical line, like I said, surges, sags, brownouts, stuff like that. Definitely, if you've got high-powered equipment, and these, you know, a lot of these pieces of hardware can sometimes be also a little bit more sensitive. It is definitely something that's worthwhile investing and having there kind of in between, let's say, your system and, you know, your wall as far as it comes in. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and continue that. Sorry, I got detracted there. We're getting towards the end here. It's just a couple other items. So let's go to one that I'm pretty excited about right here, which is going to be the ROG STRIX AURA GOLD PSU. So this is one that has been a long time coming. So you guys have known I'm a very big fan, of course, of our power supplies, especially the TUF Gaming Gold series that we have. It's a fantastic balanced option in terms of kind of the price to performance to spec. Great inbox cables that come with those guys. And now we are going to have this guy, which is going to be the ROG STRIX AURA GOLD. These are going to be kind of a step up above the TUF Gaming series. They're going to offer even pretty much, I think, quietest in class in the industry, outstanding kind of power topology. So they're going to be a great power supply through and through, great warranty, great acoustics, great power efficiency, and fantastic cables. And the cool thing is now we will have a white-based variant as well. So this is going to be the white version. It does have this really cool, clean design. Now, of course, if you've got a chassis where you don't have the PSU visible, it might not make sense, of course, to consider the white option. Of course, we'll have the black option as well. But I think for the vast majority of people, probably our prime model and our TUF Gaming models will be the first models you should probably evaluate if you want to have something that is, like I said, even more performant, higher quality, and of course, visually has an amazing aesthetic. Then that's where the ROG STRIX series and the Thor series kind of come into play right here. Now, one thing to note is with these units, the fan curve is absolutely outstanding on here, really impressive in terms of their overall acoustics performance, and they all come with these beautiful fully etched modular cables that are all white. So really, really nice in that respect. And you do, of course, have synchronized ARGB lighting. Now, keep in mind, if you do want to have the synchronized lighting, you do have to connect the ARGB cable. So that is important. Don't forget it. A lot of people on the Thor models, I saw them to connect it, and then they would forget to connect the cable, and then they would ask, like, why doesn't it sync? And it's because they didn't physically connect the cable. There's no way for the system to communicate with the power supply without having the sync cable in place. So this will be an update here. We will, right now, the ROG STRIX AURA GOLD series starts off at 850. We then have 1,000 watt. We will then have also a 1,200 watt. The white model will only be available in 1,000 watt. That is very similar like the TUF Gaming Gold. We only have the white version, TUF Gaming Gold, in 1,000 watt as well. And then for the Loki, which we also have in white, that is only in an 850 watt. But for all three of those, they all come with matching sets of fully etched modular white cables, which is really nice as well. So if you really appreciate that kind of aesthetic that these white PSUs are offering, then definitely you're going to want to check these guys out. All right. Go ahead and quickly see right here. Any quick questions right there? JC goes, best looking ROG PSU to date, man. That is big words coming over from JC, a guy that is super aesthetically minded. Some amazing builds. If you guys are looking for inspiration, look no further than his Instagram. Always amazing stuff right there that you guys can check out, as well as his posts that he does in the PCDIY group. When is the new ASUS mic going to be out? It's actually already out, Final Boss. The ROG Carnex is already available, and I think the white model was the only one that we were waiting, and I don't know if it got skewed in. I didn't last check, but the white was a little bit behind the black model, but the ROG Carnex is available right now. I will go ahead and drop it in the chat. Hoping to have mine next week here for the stream, but yes, if you're looking for the Carnex, it is available right here, so you can go ahead and pick it up right now. Let's see if the white one's listed on the ASUS store. We're going to go to buy now. Let's go ahead and click it. And still just the black one, Okay. So, yeah, just watch out right there. Should be coming in the not too distant future in that regard. Okay. All right. I love the Michael goes, JJ, feedback for your teams. I love the B-Day Armory Crate ARGB update for the day. I want it as a choice now. Can you make that happen with the next update? I'll definitely pass that feedback to our team. You can also drop that actually in the Armory Crate Deb forum, in the ROG forums. And I would say leave it in as soon as you can. I can tell you guys just a little bit early, we've already had quite a number of updates in 2024 and of course in 2023, but we are currently working on our next, what we call milestone major release. So Armory Crate has gone on from not only version 1 to version 2 to version 3 to version 4 to version 5, and there's been a lot of subversions coming out in between those. We're now currently at like version 5.8 something, I think, if I remember correctly. Version 6 is our huge milestone. There's a lot of things that we're baking in there. So if there's some stuff that you want to see, make sure to let us know. I think version 6 is probably going to look to drop, I think maybe at the end of Q2, maybe early Q3. We'll see. We might maybe have some information about it in terms of copy text, but it has been baking in the oven for quite some time. We're getting ready to take it out and hopefully have you guys check it out. So if you have some feedback in there, make sure to go ahead and let us know. All right. HO Computer says, those cables are super worth it too. Good enough to not need to buy a cable kit. I definitely would agree. It's definitely quite nice in that respect, right? Egg has the white one. You have to be careful with Newegg. Let me just go ahead and see. Not to say there's anything wrong with Newegg. They're a fantastic channel partner, but because they offer a third-party marketplace, sometimes what we've seen for some of our products that are coming into North America that might have been released in another region is that third-party marketplace vendors will sell you essentially a product that's coming from another region. Technically, when you bring that in, that can make things complicated because the serial number could be a serial number that was used for warranty generation in another region. There could be also different packaging information. If it's also being pulled from another region, the power cord can even physically be different. So I do always recommend that if you are going to be purchasing from Newegg or Amazon, they are confirmed ASUS partners, of course. Just make sure that ideally you look to purchase from a first party. So it should be shipped and sold by Newegg, or same thing from Amazon. It should be shipped and sold by Amazon. So let's go ahead and see for the ROG STRIX AURA Gold what they have listed right there, guys. So we're going to go ahead and check right here. We're going to go sold by Newegg. And so, yeah, so when I check right here, if you look, checking by Newegg, I can see that they only have the ROG STRIX, the standard, which just launched, right, which that was expected, the black model, but the white model will still be coming in. And again, you can see right here, this is going to be shipped and sold by Newegg, right, which would be an important part, right? So you can always tell the difference because let's see, maybe if I can find it. So yeah, so like there's the there's the white one. Let's see if this is import. Yeah, you can see right here, See how this says this ships from Hong Kong? So this is from a third-party marketplace. This is from PC Power Marketplace. So do keep that in mind. My recommendation would be that if you do make those purchases, again, you just want to make sure that you don't run into any issues. Ideally, you would want to purchase first party, so ship and sold from Newegg, and same thing from Amazon, ship and sold from Amazon. Okay. Okay. Okay, let me go ahead and go in. Lastly here, guys. So wrapping up things, we've got two just quick GPUs I want to go ahead and touch on. And then we're going to give you one teaser of something that it wasn't in the show notes, but I want to talk about it really quick. So on this GPUs, we've got an update right here. This is going to be for a dual series graphics card. I'm not going to talk about it because most of you should probably already be aware of our dual series. We have right now quite a number of 40 series based graphics cards. We've got our dual series, which are going to be 2 fan. Then we move up to our higher end series, our TUF Gaming series, and then we have our higher end series with our highest end series with the ROG STRIX series. This is just going to be the 16 gigabyte version of the 4060 Ti. For somebody, I would generally say not even really too much in the gaming segment, because really in most situations, the GPU is pretty good in alignment with 8 gigabytes, although there's some users that just absolutely feel that they need a 16 gigabyte configuration. Based on maybe their game settings or their preference or whatever it might be. So we do have the 4060 Ti in 8 gig and more versions than we do the 16 gig. Right now, we only offer 2 versions of the 16 gig. There's a dual model, and this one right here, specifically the 4060 Ti Evo, 16 gig version, and then we have a ProArt 4060 Ti 16 gigabyte version. Otherwise, all of our other 4060 Ti's are going to be an 8 gigabyte version. And there is a notable cost delta between the two, with the 8 gigabyte, of course, even being cheaper. So it just comes down to finding the preference for which one you prefer. Okay. On another GPU update right here, coming in at a pretty low price point. If you're maybe looking at maybe upgrade a system like an older desktop system, you want something pretty power efficient, you don't want to break the bank, you still want to be able to have good acceleration performance, cool, quiet, and have some nominal gaming performance right there. This is not a bad choice for you to consider. Of course, we do also have comparable AMD-based cards in that kind of more entry 6,000 positioning, right, if you want to go with an AMD Radeon RX-based card. But here with the GeForce RTX 3050, then this guy is only coming in at $239. It's a very compact based design. If we look at the overall dimensions right here, let's go ahead and take a look. This is a 2-slot based card, but we can see right here in terms of the dimensions, 7.8 by 4.8 by 1.5, right? And there's only one PCI Express power connector, just one 6-pin. So very minimal power consumption target. So a lot of these kind of pre-built basic systems you might get from like online or kind of refurbished systems or stuff like that, maybe doesn't even have like a 750 watt power supply. I mean, it's like a 550 or 650. This is kind of like a great option for that. They can bring you up to a more modern GPU. You get modern GPU encoding, decoding performance, modern, of course, NVIDIA-based feature sets, and at least solid general gaming performance, right? So again, this would be an option right here with the ASUS Dual 3050, all right? Then you have the 4060 Ti 16 gig, and then wrapping it up, we have an alternate 3050 version with our Phoenix, which is going to be a single fan model, still also quite compact, but dimensionally it's going to be a little bit different. I want to show you guys the actual dimension differences here. So let me go ahead and bring up these two just so that we can go side by side and kind of take a look at the difference in terms of their dimensions. So if we take a look right here at the dimensions, you will see this is going to be 7 inches approximately versus 7.8 inches, okay? So this is going to technically be a more compact card, but where the difference is that the Phoenix will technically have a bit of a higher Z height, okay? So that's where there's going to be some difference right there, and you'll see right here, this is going to be 5.04 versus 4.84, right? And then 1.57 versus 1.5. But overall, they're still both very compact cards. They're both going to be similar targets, but there might be some chassis where maybe it might be more advantageous to go this route. And then there's other chassis where it might be more advantageous to go this route. So there you go. And overall, in terms of the pricing, you can see they're very close. This one is $10 less. This is $229. So $230 versus $240. Okay, so essentially a $10 price difference. All right, so that is going to be that. So that pretty much, I think, wraps up all of the items that I wanted to go over. So now we're going to wrap it up with BTF, guys. So let me go ahead and bring up our BTF, and that's where we're going to wrap things up here. So we now actively have BTF available, guys. Very excited to be able to have this. Now, it is going to be important, a couple of things when we talk about the ASUS BTF ecosystem. Again, we've talked about it where we have essentially two sets of an ecosystem. We have one where you're going to have the white kind of ecosystem in the mid-range. So that's going to be really defined by the GPU. So 4070 Ti Super. So great GPU for a lot of 1440p gaming. Even for 4K, the average in 4K would be around probably 80 FPS. High refresh rate 1080p gaming. Really, really solid foundation. It's going to look fantastic. I love the look and feel of this system. Our friends over at Robitech recently completed a whole build using this hardware. Justin Chu, who's in the chat, also did a BTF-based build using some of this hardware right here. So really great options if you want to be able to check it out. We're going to take a look right now at the link and how it breaks down and kind of what you would want to keep in mind if you're going to consider this. So we're going to look at the first option, which is going to be the TUF Gaming BTF ecosystem. And I'm going to put the pricing for you right here. And keep in mind that this pricing might initially seem high for the motherboard, and that's because it's actually sold as a bundle. To ensure kind of the overall kind of complete best interoperability experience, you're going to get all of the core hardware that you're going to need together. So when we bring up the page right here, you can see on our ASUS store, we have the TUF Gaming Z790 BTF Wi-Fi. It's a great looking board. You can see all there in that beautiful, clean, white design, right? I mean, the black model is also equally clean, really minimal. They both look fantastic. I know for some people, they perceive the white to look cleaner. I don't think that's the case. I think they both look equally clean. I think it just comes down to the white offers you a bolder and brighter aesthetic. You also have a little bit more kind of a bouncing effect for RGB lighting, right? Where the black will kind of be a little bit more subdued and kind of it will displace some of the RGB lighting. So it'll be a little bit more kind of spotted, right? But they both look kind of fantastic. But for BTF, there is no TUF Gaming Black BTF. So right now for BTF, you can only get the TUF Gaming in this white color scheme, okay? So this great board, you can run 12th gen, 13th gen, 14th gen series CPUs. The VRM is very robust and capable, no issues in that regard. You're going to have Wi-Fi 7 on this board, 4 M.2 slots on this board, 2.5 gigabit Ethernet. You will also see in terms of the rear panel connectivity, nice rear panel connectivity with 2 ports, 4 ports, 6 ports, 7 and 8, along with that Wi-Fi 7, optical out, and 2.5 gigabit networking, integrated I/O shield. As I noted as well, right, you can have the 4M.2. This also has a Q release design, which is pretty cool. That means that when you put the graphics card in there, you can just press that to be able to eject it out. It makes it really nice and simple. And then, of course, the big hallmark is going to be right here, which is going to be this integrated power design. This integrated power design is a patent pending implementation on our part, which means that essentially is a more seamless connection experience. So if you go with the bundle, what do you get in the bundle? You're going to get the GT302 chassis. That comes included with 440 millimeter 28 millimeter thick fans, outstanding airflow, really, really great chassis to work in. And then, of course, that TUF Gaming in white 4070 Ti Super base graphics card. So all three of those items combined together because, of course, critically, the chassis has to support the motherboard, and then the graphics card also supports this. Now, this is going to be what's called our advanced BTF configuration, which is our most extensive. The motherboard will fully support any standard graphics card, though. So whether it's a non-ASUS graphics card or it's an ASUS card, but it just happens to not be BTF, those will work. You're just going to have it be like here. You're just going to have a visible PCI cable, which you can still make look really good. You can wire management. You can do all that. But if you want the super kind of minimal, clean aesthetic, then that's the route you're going to want to go with the BTF. So let's go ahead and take a look at a system here. We could probably take a look at Justin's amazing system that he recently did, but I think I have a couple of BTF images here. So let me see if I can bring these up right here. All right. And we'll go here. All right, so the first thing I want to show here is just, and I know for some of you guys probably already seen this, so we don't want to kind of focus on this too much, but we'll go ahead and just give you a little bit of a closer shot. Again, here is going to be the motherboard, and this is where I'm referring to the connector, the GC HPWR connector, right? So that's going to be that integrated connector, which will provide up to 600 watts of power. So technically right now, while we're only offering a white card, right, in the 4070 Ti, we do also offer the ROG STRIX 4090. It's not white. It would already be compatible because, again, the design configuration is specified to be able to, like I said, support pretty much the same that you would be able to get through the latest standard, right? So the cool thing is, though, for the motherboard, if you have like an older power supply, as long as the power supply is reliable and working correctly, if we take a look at the back plane of the power supply, excuse me, the motherboard for your power supply connections, you still have your legacy 3 PCI express power connectors, 8-pin, and then you have your 12-volt high power connector, right? Or of course the revised 12x6, right? Then that would be present on there. And you can use either or. For actually a 4070 Ti, you could use these and these would be entirely fine. They would be entirely stable, no issues. Or you could use the newer connector. So the choice is up to you based on your preference, your cable routing options, and of course also, you know, as I noted, right, your power supply. So you can go in either configuration. So let's take a look and see if we can find a quick example of the system kind of all together here. All right, 1 second here. So here's a good example. This is from Mads Modding. So Mads Modding shared this over here, and you can see this is a good example. This is actually from a different company's chassis, so it wouldn't be this exact look and feel. But again, you can see exactly how it would look in terms of having a very minimal overall essentially cable appearance. Pretty much the only thing you see here is with the AIO, and some guys actually would even route this a little bit more cleanly, where they would probably run it back through here and then up, and you would hide it and you would even see that cable. So it would pretty much look like there's no cables at all, but you can see that there's no cable that's going to be visible there for the GPU. As an alternate, let's go ahead and take a look at another example. So let me bring one other up here. So one of our friends, of course, the one, the only, the Canadian Grandmaster himself, Sniff. Here's an amazing build that he did, and this is actually in the GT302 chassis. Now here he's gone ahead and of course incorporated a custom water cooling setup, which I think absolutely looks stunning. One of my favorite builds that he's done, although really I'm a huge fan of Sniff's, of pretty much all of his work right here. But you can see just how nicely this all comes together. And you can see the really nice look and feel of the actual TUF Gaming chassis that we have. Now this is going to be something that he's customized. This is going to be a little bit different, so don't think that you would have the exact idea in that regard, but it does come included with actually already 4 very high performance 140 millimeter base fans that are pre-wired, so very, very easy for the user. Pretty much the only things you're going to have to install are going to be the top AIO cooler, but this would be kind of the look and feel where you can see, of course, the chassis, the graphics card, and the motherboard, and again, you don't see any cabling for the actual graphics card. And I think one last one is we can probably go ahead and take a look here at Mr. Matt Lee. I believe also, though, if I can probably jump over into the group and take a look at Justin's system that he did, we can also show us there. But here we can also see from our friend Mr. Matt Lee across the pond, this is another example of the build. And this one's actually also using the actual inbox fans. So these are the fans that actually come wired in with the chassis. Okay, so this is now available, and you'll continue to see more options in the future, but as of right now, we're only going to offer 2 initial ecosystems. I know some people are asking, hey, are we going to offer micro ATX? Are we going to offer mini ITX? Are we going to offer AMD? All of these things are under discussion. If you have feedback, feel free to go ahead and let us know. This is something that we're evaluating and looking to see. But of course, right now, these are the 2 options that we're putting forth to the market, with the TUF Gaming being the first one that we're highlighting, and it's available now. Again, chassis, motherboard, and graphics card all paired together. You bring along all the other rest of the components, and all of those components are standard. There is nothing proprietary about any of the other components. The same components you would use in a standard build. And keep in mind that chassis can fully support a standard build. It's not an only BTF only build. Okay, I do want to make a recommendation, though, that for the power supply, we strongly do recommend our TUF Gaming series, our ROG STRIX AURA series, or our Loki series power supplies that are going to have soft, malleable cables. Due to the backspacing be a little bit more compressed, you just want to be able to make sure that you have a good amount of flexibility to be able to really kind of bend in those cables, have a good level of malleability, and be able to route them nicely and efficiently. Okay, let me go ahead and see if we had any quick questions that might have came up right there. Yeah, A-Show Computers notes is Justin had a great BTF build. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can go ahead and bring that one up right there. And I'm also going to talk about, actually, I think Michael's noting there with his new TR120 fans. I'm going to touch on those in a moment. But yes, we're going to touch on that. So the next build that we're going to take a look at here, as far as the configuration, is going to be the ROG series. So let's go ahead and take a look at the ROG series. And this is going to be a 3 configuration, same thing, 3 component configuration. So here you can see we've got the ROG MAXIMUS Z790 Dark Hero. This is, of course, even a higher end board. So you're going to get, of course, a lot of the more premium features, differential DiSense monitoring. You're going to have the ESS Saber DAC. You're going to have much more I/O that's going to be on the rear backplane. Also still have Wi-Fi 7, even more support for PCI Express NVMe drives, where you're going to have a total of 5. Dual PCI Express Gen 5 slots on the motherboard. I mean, again, this is a flagship series board that we're going to have. Also has Thunderbolt 4 that's going to be on there. So a lot of really impressive feature, function, and specs. So if you want to go to kind of the next level, this is what you would be looking at. The bundle configuration brings together the GR701 BTF. So that's our flagship Hyperion large chassis. And then you're also going to have the ROG STRIX 4090, so pretty much the fastest graphics card you can get. So here, this will combine together to give you essentially all 3 of those core components. You can see the price right there at $33.39, right? So definitely a pretty big price delta between the TUF Gaming. I think for a lot of people, the TUF Gaming is a fantastic option for you to be able to get into this really cool look and feel of having this rear cable design-based implementation and still fantastic performance. But if you're looking for kind of the best, then here you're going to be able to go with the ROG-based configuration. So let me go ahead and show you kind of what the ROG configuration will look like if you bring it all together. So this is kind of pretty much the system together. Now, you can, of course, customize this based on different hardware, so you don't have to use the Thor power supply. You could use something like the ROG STRIX AURA GOLD series. You could use, of course, the TUF Gaming series. You could use whatever power supply you want, from great other partners and manufacturers that are out there as well. Same thing with the cooling solution. You could pick a different cooler. This is with our Ryujin 3, our flagship AIO, which also has daisy chain magnetic fans, which are really easy to install. Very minimal cables, because of course it's just going to have one cable coming off that'll come off from the left to the right, and then you can route that easily to the back. But you can see right here, it's a really, really nice just overall look and feel where you don't pretty much see anything except for those AIO cables right there. So overall, if this is something that you're interested in terms of this look and feel and this performance option that you have available to you, this will be the ROG version of the BTF ecosystem. So again, with the GR701, the Hyperion, the ROG STRIX 4090, and then the ROG MAXIMUS Z790 BTF base. All comes together in a bundled kit. So 3 products, and then we have 3 products for the TUF Gaming ecosystem. So just pick the one that you're interested in. So, I know I've asked before in the chat, but let me know. Do you think you might build a BTF system, or do you think you prefer keeping it right now as you have it right now, having cables in your system that are visible? I know that I've told you guys I don't mind cables. I like cables. I think they sometimes add contrast, texture, and color, but definitely the BTF system can look really cool in terms of having just a different aesthetic, definitely more minimal. And I think from ease of building, technically could even be a bit easier because you immediately see all the connectors on the backplane. So I'd love to know what your guys' thoughts are. Is that something that you think you guys are interested in? Would you continue to like to see even more options get produced as far as our BTF-based ecosystem? And also, what are your thoughts on essentially our patent pending design implementation, where essentially we are now routing the power through the motherboard and essentially eliminating you to have any cable there for your graphics card that's immediately visible? All right, so that is going to be those 2 options that will be available. Let's see, we have some feedback right there. So Michael notes, yes, BTF is on my list to do. Sounds pretty cool. And then curious what model RAM sticks ASUS is using in the product image. I believe those sticks are G-Skill, if I remember, on that Hyperion build. Let me see right here. I think if you're wondering about this one, yep, those are G-Skill. Yes. Of course, you can use any DIMMs that you want. They don't have to be G-Skill. You could use Team Group. You could use Kingston, right? You could use, A-Data. You could use Patriot. There's a number of great options. All comes down to your preference. Ideally, though, like I've told you guys in my DDR5 Insights guide, I do recommend 2 DIMMs if you're looking to optimize DRAM scaling, interoperability, compatibility, and stability. 4 DIMMs is always going to have less scaling, regardless if you go with a single rank configuration or whether you go with a dual rank configuration, which would have much more diminished scaling, right? And then having, of course, single rank bit configuration. So if you really want the look, you should go with a 4-DIMM single rank configuration versus a 4-DIMM dual rank situation configuration. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So Iggy K, mind blow, didn't know stuff like this existed. Is BTF an ASUS thing or an industry term? So that's a great question. So you will find that there's other manufacturers that currently are promoting like a rear cable design kind of concept. MSI calls it Project Zero. Gigabyte calls it Project Stealth. BTF is ASUS's term for our rear cable design concept. It also, as I noted, indicates that we have two forms of BTF. We have standard and then we have an advanced. The advanced is using our patent pending design implementation, which other vendors will not be able to show or implement, because that is what we've done in terms of integrating the power connector on the motherboard. So with us, you will have that kind of that cleanest design aesthetic, if that makes sense, right? But yes, this option as far as this type of design implementation is something that is happening across the vendors. So chassis partners are working with us. So right now we actually have a wide number of chassis partners that already have signed on to the BTF Alliance, as we called it. So these include partners like Fantex, Corsair, Lian Li, ASA, Thermaltake, Silverstone, many partners that are working with us on ensuring interoperability and compatibility with our motherboard designs. What you need fundamentally if you want to go with BTF is going to be you have to have the BTF motherboard, because the motherboard physically will have the connectors on the back as opposed to being on the front of the motherboard. And then the secondary item that you would need is going to be the chassis. The chassis has to support that. So at a minimum, if you're going to go with it, you have to at least have the motherboard and the chassis. The graphics card, we would say, is optional. If you want the kind of the most advanced, which is why we call BTF advanced configuration, then you would go with an ASUS BTF based graphics card to be able to give you that experience. But keep in mind, the ASUS BTF graphics cards are only compatible with ASUS motherboards. You couldn't run those on other companies' motherboards. Okay. You're saying the product image? No. So just showing, let me go ahead and bring up here and I'll show you kind of the product page so you guys can hopefully understand between the two different versions. But no, the one that I just showed you right there is not. That would already be what we would call like the BTF Advanced. Okay. So if you actually head over to our BTF website, the BTF website will actually kind of break it down for you so you can see another example of BTF that we have over here. But see, BTF Advanced will denote that you're using the graphics card with that auxiliary connector. So that's when you would have an advanced configuration. Okay, so this is a BTF Advanced. But if you just had a standard setup, so take for instance like this, the micro ATX board, which does not have that connector, if you were to put together that system, it wouldn't have that look. So that's what a system we would call, quote unquote, a non-BTF. Now, if you're also asking about the memory where you're saying that I would say that the image is unoptimized, yes, technically that image I would say would be non-optimized or non-preferred because it's a 4-DIMM. We do it because people like the way 4-DIMMs look. They think it looks sometimes more pleasing. Personally, for me though, like I said, if you talk about DRAM scaling performance, 2 DIMMs is going to be superior, especially because you can do 2 DIMM configurations and 32 gigabytes or 48 gigabytes with single rank memory, which will give you the best DRAM scaling, right? That is going to be the preferred option. So unless you unilaterally have to run with 4 DIMMs, you absolutely want it from an aesthetic perspective. Don't do it because you're going to lead into a higher probability of having instability or a lower level of DRAM scaling, as there's generally not many native kits. So you're going to be mixing 2 kits, which will also have other aspects that will not necessarily be positive in terms of the DRAM scaling. I go way more into this if you kind of want to understand it more clearly by checking out our DDR5 overview video and live stream, as well as you can check out our DDR5 Insights posts within the PCDIY group. Okay. JC says HYPERION BTF with tubeless ROG block. That's sounding pretty good. All right. ASUS Computers, so it goes, having already built on BTF style system, but adding a water cooling turned out fantastic and added some life to not seeming so empty. The GPU motherboard power connector is quite innovative. Pretty cool. Mr. Cranberry, thank you for your support. Appreciate that. And again, if you have any, if you're looking for an update actually on some recent feedback in respect to maybe what you might be talking about, feel free to check out the link in the description below for actually a recent press release that we've issued that hopefully adds some clarity and some insight into everything and maybe might help you feel bit more confident. But appreciate your support and consideration of that. And as always, if you have any other further questions, feel free to go ahead and reach out to our service support team. Also, you can be part of our PCDIY group, a great community where you can find members like Lee. He's our community manager that can provide insight into any questions you might have regarding our product portfolio and things along those lines. Blueberry is asking, is there a time frame for the monitor light bar release? Probably going to be next month, hopefully. So hopefully before the end of the quarter. I don't think it's going to fall into Q3. I do think it's just going to be right at the end of Q2. All right. So that is going to pretty much wrap up the BTF ecosystem. So now, guys, I'm going to wrap it up with just a little bit of a quick teaser. You might have seen maybe an announcement that might have came out from it. I don't know if you did. So I'm going to go ahead and show it to you. Let me just bring it up right here. Give me 1 second. But if you guys know, I've been a big fan of our TF120 fans, and we are now prepared to release our new follow-up TR120 fans. So the TR120 fans are going to be pretty cool because they are going to offer some cool elements. So let's go ahead and see here. Go ahead and bring this up for you guys. Give me a second. So here we go. Let's go ahead and take a look at our new upcoming TR120 fans. All right. So this will be there. If you guys didn't notice, is these are going to be moving to even a thicker frame, so 28 millimeters. That, of course, does affect a little bit of mechanical interoperability and compatibility, but is also going to give us even a higher level of performance. Now, the TF120 fans were already some of the best fans in terms of the overall dimensions, to their ARGB lighting performance, to their price, to the bearing quality, to the static pressure, and to the airflow. Really an overall great choice for a wide range of builders. But these units will take it up even to kind of a little bit a further degree, but they're going to also add in some cool other elements. So 28 millimeters. You're also going to see that right here we have some very impressive static pressure and airflow numbers, but always keep in mind that these numbers, one, they're at 100%, which most people don't run their fans at 100%, right? And more importantly, you really want to know what the performance of the fan is going to be in the sweet spot of the fan curve, which is generally going to usually be somewhere probably between about 600 to probably about 1400 RPM is where most people run fans, although that is also dependent on the RPM curve that the fan has, right? Some fans, maybe their peak RPM might be 1500 RPM, other fans might be 1800, and other fans might be 2000 plus, right? So that all kind of plays into it as well. Moving beyond this, though, this is the other cool part, is that you'll see that there's a reverse direction, and there actually is a reverse fan design. So this is something that is the first time that we have offered this, and we're very excited about now being able to give you essentially the option. Now, historically, what you may not realize is usually you're going to get lower performance in a reversed airflow design configuration. So traditionally, when you look at fans that have a reversed airflow design, they are not going to perform anywhere near the same level as your quote-unquote standard-based fan. So we worked very, very hard to really kind of have best-in-class performance for this reverse direction performance, okay? So you can, again, see that in terms of static pressure and the airflow. In terms of the LED array, a lot of the more entry-level fans on the market might be usually like 6 to 8, maybe 6 to 10 LEDs. This uses an 8 and 8 plus dual, what's called dual layer LED array. So nice, bold, bright, evenly diffused. So it's a nice, just RGB-based fan in that respect. Okay. The other cool thing is you're going to see right here that it actually has two forms of kind of styling that's going to be available to you. You have kind of this single LED strip, and then you have this kind of cool secondary LED strip design. And essentially based on how you rotate that, you can play around with that. So imagine you could go with like one line, or you could go 2, 2, 2, 2, or you can see you've kind of done an alternating design, 1 to 2, 1 to 2. So this also allows you to kind of have just a different look and feel, kind of break it up and be able to add some additional flair to your system from a physical design implementation along with the lighting implementation that's also on the fan. And so, of course, here we're also going to be offering it just like we do with the TF120 fans. We'll be offering it in white and in black, so you'll be able to get them. So again, standard and reverse, black and in white. We will be offering it, I believe, initially in a single pack, and then also just like what we're doing with the TF120s, where we'll have the 3-pack configuration. You'll also have the 3-pack configuration available to you as well. So I'm very excited about these TR120 fans. You will be seeing these guys come out in the not too distant future, and they will be very reasonably priced in terms of their overall price point for both the single pack and for the triple pack base configuration. All right. Michael goes, yes, love them. Love them. 2 looks in 1. Yeah, that's going to be pretty cool. Michael goes, TR140 next. No plans right now for a 140 millimeter fan. We know that we've had some people request, but overall 120 is the vast majority where the focus is on the market and what most people use. So that's what we're prioritizing in terms of our focus, right? Mike goes, is that my new TUF Gaming 240 AIO is totally silent? Yeah, if you got the TUF Gaming LC 240 with that decoupled pump, I used that in a couple of prior live streams, and I think for one of the overclocking demos. It's actually the quietest pump I've ever tested of all the AIOs I've ever tried. It is very quiet. I was really impressed with that decoupled design. So if you're somebody that has like a system that's really close to you, or you're a bit more sensitive in terms of like pump noise or variability, that decoupled pump design is really cool. And it's a very solid performing unit, and the fans that come there with it are good too. So yeah, we have that model in a 240 and a 360. Thanks for letting us know that you're a Team TUF Gaming, Mike. Yeah, it's a very solid unit. Michael goes, is there a magnetic daisy chain option? No, these are much more entry fans than what you might have like in terms of an expensive daisy chain fan. Daisy chain fans, you know, you're easily talking about, you know, generally $100+ right, for like a 3-pack or something like that. You know, the 3-pack TF120s, or, you know, floating sometimes between, you know, $40 to sometimes less than that on promo pricing. So this is going to be a pretty price aggressive unit. So these are not daisy chain magnetic. No. All right, so that gives you guys a quick teaser on the upcoming ASUS TUF Gaming TR120 fans. Thanks, guys, for joining us through the stream today. I know it's been a little bit since our last stream, so we just wanted to be able to catch up, give you guys some great updates. No PCDIY Builder Spotlight for this week, but definitely whatever the next PCDIY show is going to be, if we end up having one next week before Computex, then for sure I'll make sure to have the PCDIY Builder Spotlight. As always, if you guys have questions, comments, or follow-up, feel free to go ahead and drop them in the comment section down below. And you can also make sure to go ahead and join us in our PCDIY group, a great community that we have, over 50,000 members that all love PCDIY and love hardware. So if you got questions, comments, or feedback as well, feel free to join us there, and feel free to tag myself, or feel free to tag Lee, our community manager, there to be able to go ahead and follow up with any questions or comments you might have. So with that, guys, take care, take it easy, have a great Friday night, enjoy your weekend, stay safe and stay healthy. Catch you later, guys. Bye-bye.